Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus.
Synctank.
There are levels of suffering that I'm experiencing right now, and so we'll see how this works. How's it going, Alex? How you doing, Thomas?
We're doing great, man. Actually, we don't even need you. You can just get the hell out of here.
That was what I was hoping.
Oh wow, that was almost instant.
Jeez, he really didn't want to be here.
Was it something I said? Well, I actually do. You're actually the perfect person to have here. Unfortunately, David's not here, but that also means no one can contradict you in any of the claims you're gonna make.
I can be the dictator of the evening.
Well, I want to talk about Kubrick. I know you're not a big fan of that topic, so
no, hate it.
Let me know what your safe word is when we get too deep into Kubrick.
I want to talk about everything that's been going on this week, which can be related.
I was about to say that's the same thing. I'm gonna just jump in here and
I actually want to know what are the Kubrick connections to the Trump assassination attempt?
I don't. Well, I'm gonna have to do this off the top of my head. I've just been kind of making a tweet storm over the past few days about all this stuff. I mean, it all started with July 11th and the release of this movie Longlegs, and in a tandem with the movie Fly Me to the Moon. So we have one which is an occult serial killer movie released with a movie which is about a fake Apollo moon landing. And they both release on the day that is 1776 weeks since Elon Musk's 19th birthday, which is something I'd been writing about in my last few Substack articles. Elon Musk's 19th birthday and 1776 weeks. So I have this whole structure. But anyway, so I was like ahead of the time. I was looking at 7/11/24 as being like a day of interest. I literally had it circled on my little application, and I tweeted about it a week ago. And then that turned out to be the day that Shelley Duvall dies, who is, right, Wendy in The Shining, the mother of Danny, who wears the Apollo sweater and everything. And then more stuff started happening. What else was it? I guess I should go pull up my article. This is where I'd ask Andreas to pull up my article and show everybody. But
oh yeah, you would.
if you could.
Well, I just might do that.
Yeah, I guguess, I don't know. I was just I was putting these two movies in the context of Barbie and Oppenheimer last year. Which was
right, I'm trying to. You want me to get to the Purple
feature.
Rain? Or
yeah, the top one, the top one at the.
She's leaving home.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, okay. So Longlegs is directed by Oz Perkins, who, if you didn't know, is the son of Anthony Perkins, who, Psycho, Hollywood royalty. And Oz Perkins, the weird thing about him is that his mother, who, Anthony Perkins' wife, her name is Barry Berenson for the bear, double bear thing here. But she died on Flight 11 on 9/11. She was one of the first people to die, on that flight that flew in the North Tower.
She was one of the front first class.
Yeah, presumably. So that's weird. But then, looking into Oz Perkins himself, it's also, I look at his birthday, and his birthday is on 2/2/74, which, come to find out, is exactly 237 weeks after the moon landing. So
Allegedly.
Barry Berenson gave birth to this guy, Oz Perkins, named Oz, 237 weeks after the moon landing, and then she goes on to die on Flight 11. So there's like an Apollo 11, Flight 11 parallel there, and 2/2/74. That number's notable since it equals 2037 plus 237. I've pointed this out before, that is the year of the movie Logan's Run, which is like a dystopian sci-fi story about a society where once you hit 30, you're killed. So
I liked it.
Yeah, 30 or 23.
I prefer timeless, but
Dude,
whatever.
Once you get to 35, though, then you start realizing things about your back.
It's true. Yeah, no, right, absolutely. So okay, so Logan's Run is set in 2274. So then, okay, the day after 7/11 comes, I post my article, and then a bunch of other stuff happens. Namely, well, one thing is the death of Dr. Ruth. Dr. Ruth, the German Jewish sex therapist.
I didn't realize she had a body count and not a sexual body count.
Sniper.
Yeah,
I just typed in sniper instead of Ruth. That's where my brain's at. Yeah, when I think of her, sex sells, but also, dude, she's cunning. No one gets it, dude. Like, woman that could kill you. That's what men find sexy, because feminism is violence.
Right, and she's 4'7", so she's very short, which is not having long legs. Which
all you need, bro. The Filipino warriors were all about 4'7", and they whooped everyone until King Philip.
Sure. Well, okay. So the thing about the weird thing about this is that Dr. Ruth. Well, I guess I got what it shows there. Since it's there, I'll say it. Is that Nicolas Cage, who is in Long Legs, directed by Oz Perkins, is 60 years, 6 months, 6 days old the day this movie releases. Also, the day Dr. Ruth dies. But then you look at Dr. Ruth's midpoint, and it's the day Logan's Run came out, premiered. Logan's Run in the year 2274, directed by a guy born on 2/2/74. And then further down in my little article there, I just reveal that this day was also the release date of another movie, which is called The Big Bus. And this has been featured in one of Sean's videos in the past, where it literally has a character named Dan Torrance, who is accused of cannibalism, resorting to cannibalism to survive, just like in The Shining, where Danny asks, "What is the Donner Party?" and they say it's about cannibalism, blah blah blah. So Dan Torrance, but then the line is before the crash you weighed 180, but then after you weighed 237. Explain that. So it's a direct 237 Dan Torrance cannibalism thing. This whole movie's full of crazy things, but it's all came out before The Shining. So I know I'm a long way from however I started, but this is what I just posted on my Substack.
Well, I want to know how can we tie this back into the events of this and last week?
Well, you're talking about the Trump shot, right?
Trump shot? Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I heard he just fell because of some loud noise.
Well, what we're talking about is a media event. This is on the baseline level. This is just media, and it's a particular like 9/11 was a particularly powerful media impact of flowering up in the consciousness of the world. This is the same thing, and just COVID,
this is the trauma-based programming, right?
Yeah,
this is one of those
ritual,
those trauma events that we're supposed to rally around, or at least it's I always think of it. Maybe it's juvenile version, but I always think of Sonic the Hedgehog checkpoints. After every while, you run through one of the little balloon checkpoints, and it sticks up, and that's kind of what trauma-based programming is. It just gives you these little checkpoints so that when you crawl into a little fetal position, you basically go back to like whatever your previous biggest traumatic experience was. So this is our current checkpoint that we can revert back to.
It's true, yeah. It's a new bellwether kind of event, and I don't know, the way that the script has flipped with now the conservatives are wholeheartedly endorsing the event as fact, whereas the liberals are now the ones questioning whether it was all staged or a hoax or a false flag, which was like, made illegal apparently when it comes to Alex Jones, and it's now they're talking about that. So that's just a really kind of unsettling kind of just, you can kind of see the programming flip. And so, yeah, the other really crazy thing about this shooter was how we got his birthday really quickly. So I just, do the lifespan and find a midpoint. And it's the day Richard Simmons retired, which I didn't really realize this was a thing, but that Richard Simmons in 2014 just disappeared from the eye of media, basically. He retired and nobody knew where he went, and there's been stories about him to the point like that they invoke like black magic, like there's some kind of weird occult thing going on with Richard Simmons anyway. But that happened on the midpoint of the shooter's life, and then he died the same day Richard Simmons died. They really bungled. I didn't like say that smoothly to like maximize the impact of
because you were also thinking about
weird.
And then Shannon Doherty.
Shannon Doherty is another one. Dorothy, well, that's Wizard of Oz.
And there's some, I don't know, you could definitely get 237 out of 90210 just because there are numbers. You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah. I haven't looked too deeply into it, but I should.
There's probably
Shannon is also
too,
shining.
Right?
Shining.
It was weird that she got divorced the day before she died. Right? Finalized divorce the day before she died. Yeah.
That's wonky.
Is that weird though? Because it wasn't like a freak death, right? It didn't just like happen out of nowhere, did it?
Well, yeah, but like, do you schedule it? Like, I'll make sure that I get the paperwork in before Monday. Like, that's still kind of, I mean, I don't know. It's possible.
Yeah, her debut film was in Heathers, with Christian Slater and Winona Ryder, which is all about a death cult sort of deal. It's
right,
like
Big Fun.
Big Fun. I vaguely remember, but
that was the shirt that the big girl wore all the time. Said Big Fun on it.
Right. Yeah, as I was saying, Shannon kind of resonates with Shining. So
yeah, it seemed like really interesting that it was right after the Shelley Duvall death too. Like, there's just so much change in the world right now.
Yeah, and that was another weird thing that happened, or that I realized, is that I was thinking about the death of Shelley Duvall, and then thinking about other Kubrick actresses and their deaths, and I thought about Sue Lyon, who played Lolita, and I thought, well, how long between Sue Lyon's death and Shelley Duvall's death? And I go look, and it's 237 weeks exactly.
Oh my gosh!
It's just like, that's strange, but not strange, because I kind of predicted it. But the fact that I even looked, because I knew something would happen. So yeah.
And remind me though that your theory isn't necessarily that there's like a Kubrick cult out there that's orchestrating these dates, but that we're kind of observing some underlying code that Kubrick just happens to be the common thread of.
Yeah, I think that's pretty well said.
I think some of it though, right? Because even Eddie recently put up a kind of I hadn't even seen this movie yet, but Thine Ears Shall Bleed. I think Jake talked about this, right? It came out on July 9th, 4 days before the Trump shooting.
Jake Shall Bleed.
Jake Celian, Jake Coates, I think actually popped that into the sync of our reality. So there's been a bunch of ear-based things. Did you guys see Celian's video?
Celian? No, I don't.
Jake.
Oh, Celian. No, well, yeah, I did, about Harrison Ford and that
his
stuff.
His new he just had a video, I thought. Isn't it short? That just came out.
I don't think I saw the
Trump's attempted assassination video. I'm gonna share it. And
will he let us play it?
He better.
He won't take us down, will he?
He might actually have my car, like, brake lights, all of it. Okay, let's find out.
This past Friday, July the 12th, the teaser for Captain America Brave New World dropped.
They said lose the mustache or lose the election.
Harrison Ford plays President Ross in Brave New World, and he has been the president before in Air Force One.
Heck yeah, yes.
The very next day, which was yesterday, July the 13th, was Harrison Ford's birthday.
Happy birthday.
Because he's one of the coolest people in history and I want to be like him, I've asked Harrison Ford to pierce my ear.
Harrison Ford has a pierced ear and pierces Jimmy Fallon's ear live on Late Night. Yesterday, on Harrison Ford's birthday, Donald Trump survived an assassination attempt where his ear was pierced by a bullet.
We'll show the world a better way forward.
Harrison Ford's president also survives an assassination attempt in Captain America Brave New World. This past
I do want to
Simple
predict there's going to be a new trend among super alpha conservative males. Is they're going to start getting their ears pierced by AR-15s from at least like 237 yards away, I guess, or what was it, like
You gotta
140
use it.
yards?
You gotta use a 22
This makes
though.
me think of okay. This ties everything together because have you ever seen The Jackal with
Of
Bruce
course,
Willis?
Of course,
dude. Yeah, Bruce
yeah.
Willis.
Where
that's-
he takes a
Jackal is what I
shot.
was thinking of the
He
whole time.
take-
Of this
Yeah.
He takes his rifle, like 100 caliber shot at Jack Black, who and then
Oh,
he takes his arm
my.
off, which just
totally right.
just happened because Jack Black has now been like decapitated.
he's in the
No,
crosshairs,
he's
yeah.
totally Jack Black's fine because he denounced his friend and he said that he basically canceled Tenacious D from existence until further notice. So he's gone with the party trend.
Gotta be a
You've
bit.
seen Jack Black wear the Joe Biden with the red eyes, like he's got
Mhm.
the Doomer Joe kind of shirt and "Let's Go Brandon" written across the shirt. He's like unironically ironic. But no, so Jack Black was
It's
also
hard to
in.
say what's going on with that.
He
Cable
was
guy
in
has-
in Will Smith's Servant of the People. Is that the right one? Enemy of the
don't know that
State.
one.
Enemy of the
And-
State.
Right, he was the hacker.
He was the NSA Stan. So he's a hacker, but like a hacker that's been picked up and forced to work for the government, and they do NSA surveillance on people. And this is like 2003. It's like before the iPhone. So they have to actually put things into your devices, but they're showing you how they're going to put things into all of the devices in the next few years, basically.
And
His
Jack
watch is
Black,
fine.
you know, his mom worked on the Apollo moon landing mission, and
Yeah,
that's the
he made that
story.
freaking movie about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
he did.
Huh.
But so what was I gonna say? Jack Black, the cable guy. Can't remember now. But Jack Black has been. I don't know what's going on with him and Tenacious D. Whether this is like a bit.
No, I think he legitimately is anti-Trump, and like it's
Well, yeah,
here's like
obviously.
let me just say something really
Compromised.
controversial. This is gonna upset some people.
Compromised.
Let me just say something
Shallow
like
Hal was the best Jack Black movie ever.
it's not bad. Actually, I really prefer that rollerblading
Fairly-
one.
Farley
The
Brothers are
air,
great.
the airborne when he's young, he's in a roller skating movie. That's pretty good, but he's in the background. Controversial take. It's not that it's actually probably millions of people that agreed with Tenacious D that wish that the bullet hit Trump. There's a lot of people that believe that.
Yeah.
That's just it's crazy to pretend that there aren't people that feel that way, and it doesn't need to be for a rational reason, right? And you've pointed out a number of really great examples of emotional ties he might have to his synthetic reality that'll keep him from caring to look into the truth, and will keep him defending what is a comfortable position because he has all these heroic stories, right? I think was it Robert E. Lee said that when he was young, his great nanny would tell him all these stories, right? And that they were all these stories of regalia of his ancient ancestors who were kings and knights and things like that. And that really helped build up his belief in himself to be a general. And then years later, he found out they were all fairy tales, right? So it was really hard for General Lee to accept that these things weren't real, but they were really useful in building him up, right? Into believing who he is. So Jack Black is like that. Like, he's an actor. He's playing a part. And everything about him is from people who acted and lied their way to create this synthetic reality, right? So you have to justify that. It doesn't matter what is true. It matters what you want to make the world like.
When his central theme is kind of summoning evil powers from Satan, right? Like if you were to
Yeah.
pick one theme, that's his theme.
To This is just a tribute.
You're kind of saying that Jack Black is Truman of the Truman Show, or something like.
No, he's
one
the
of
friend.
many?
He's the best friend in the Truman Show.
Oh, okay. He's our best friend. Just
Remember
like
like he's like he wants you to continue to live in the Truman Show because it's good for you. It's good for him. It's good for everybody.
Right.
Everybody loves the
Right.
Truman Show.
Right. So, what do you guys think about the reality of the Trump thing? Do you think this was an advertising stunt or an actual assassination?
I really think it's interesting that because it's on the right, you're allowed to ask that question, and that people have phrased it that way. I think it's the stages of grief, though, because the first thing is denial, and like people go through stages of denial. I think it's important to realize that I think there aren't necessarily crisis actors involved with this, and these people were murdered. Like, I think that people get murdered even in crisis events. If that is what this was, somebody got sacrificed then.
It seems
someone got murdered.
Unlike those other events in the past, there's like, we have a
real bullet.
Of a dead body.
It's not a guy who wakes up in a car. This is the most stunning crisis act ever then, because he didn't wake up with a gas mask over his face with a bunch of black water equipment. He doesn't have $50,000 in armor-piercing rounds with him. This is a radicalized by the internet at best situation, which is really easy to do. It's really easy for someone to fall asleep watching YouTube and it just keeps suggesting videos that radicalize you. I've ended up watching the craziest like Arabic like talks where I'm like, wow, if I had just like, if you walk away and come back, like YouTube will like get you down some crazy rabbit holes. So I can easily see, you know, how someone hearing weird messages, what kind of weird messages were people saying on the internet? Oh yeah, like put him in the bullseye. Alex Soros, I mean, that was Biden said put Trump in the bullseye. Alex Soros put up a picture of a bullet hole through some glass with $47. You know, I mean, there's a lot of that going around.
Didn't they just announce their wedding, their engagement too? Alex Soros and Huma.
Yeah,
Huma Baden. Yeah, I mean, if that's not indicative,
a wedding
of
gift.
Like, well, this also feels like a brand new dynasty that's coming into fruition because for some reason, Huma, I think, is either she's the proxy for the loose energy of the Clintons at this point, because no matter what happens, like she's destined to be in the limelight. Even if Wiener went away and came back and went away and came back twice.
They're still not divorced. They're still not divorced though.
And then finally they were like, all right, we have to find someone else for Huma to kind of attach to. So
I think Huma was always Wiener's handler.
Well, Huma to me is Jackie Onassis, right? Like this is her Onassis phase. Like she's graduated from the Kennedys, and now she knows what real money's like.
Let's go back. Okay, so born in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Aren't her parents like super offer jobs at the university in Saudi Arabia? Moved to Jeddah. I was under the impression she was like from a super royal family. They're not really saying that here. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm under the misimpression, but I thought she came from a very important, at least a very important political family. You know,
well, the Clinton family, yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. This idea of this new royalty that's emerging, I can totally see that in the idea of a wedding gift. I mean, the other thing, but what people were saying, I've read some of the most fun conspiracies that I've seen in like years, right? Because most of the cool ones get kicked off the internet if it's about this kind of stuff. But now it's Trump. There's these ones where it's like there's a third shooter over there. Trump's got a little explosion behind his ear. He uses a razor blade to cut his
glass
cheek.
Shrapnel.
I love it personally. I think we need more of this kind of creativity.
The more that these happen, the more boring I feel. And I don't know if it's just like I'm getting older and more boring. But I legitimately feel it was a real assassination attempt. And a lot of people bring up what I think it's Hanlon's razor, where it's like never attribute to malice what could be described as incompetence, but I prefer the Gray's Law version, which is any sufficiently advanced incompetence is indistinguishable from malice. And that's kind of how I strongly feel about this one. It doesn't matter to me what the intent was or if it was planned or if someone like let it go by and they just said, which does feel very like FBI, ATF, CIA, where they're just like, let's see what happens. Like I can see these things playing out. Let's just wait 10 seconds and see how this plays out. There could be an aspect of that. It could just be incompetence. To me, it's like potato, tomato. Like it doesn't really matter between the two.
I would go with, and I'm assuming Alex is going to go this direction. I'm sorry, but like with like the amount of synchromysticism, you have to take it religiously almost, because you get to a point where you've got, okay, pretty obvious setup. You've got a parking lot just outside of, by technicality, a pretty obvious zone with the kind of shot you would every first year Marine, Thomas, right? Like you're doing 300 to 500 meters, right? Like this is not.
Well, I was in the chair force, not the Marines. So
okay, well, this is a non-issue shot for like just about anybody, even
correct.
somebody.
And there's so many people that are like, oh man,
Your average Call of Duty player could hit this.
Yeah, I mean, if you even let's say a failed
140 yards is nothing for someone that's actually trained.
But a failed high schooler who tried to get into a rifleman class, I would say even still, this is what is this supposed to be, like 180 meters as opposed, like this is not 300 or 500 meters. Like this is the capacity to get this shot is not. It's not impossible, and it's pretty much probable that you should be able to do this unless there's something kind of wrong with you. Can we agree with that? Like basically, you have to have a level of handicap and incompetence to miss this shot.
Maybe. I mean, if we're talking an actual 200 yards outside with
less than 200 yards, like 160 to 180, right? That's what it was. Less than 200 yards.
It's still not.
Sure.
It's not the easiest thing in the world, even to hit paper. Like even if you were in,
he's got
indoor
6 shots, and he's got it set up, and like I don't know. Maybe.
Well,
okay.
But also
he's
prone,
also
and he's
curved.
got like
You've got a curved roof here, so you can hide behind this roof. And you've got police that are clearly letting you get away with it for as long as possible. Take the shot. I don't know. I mean, I feel like
convinced that there was a sniper somewhere, and they were just someone in their ears, just going like, just give it another 6 seconds.
That's the fun conspiracy, right? The idea that you've got another sniper that was such a good shot that this was actually a circus trick. This was not just your, crooked crooks. No, this was like a lady Trump was a lady spinning, and someone threw a knife and it got right between her dress. That's kind of the idea that we're saying, that it was such a perfect fake that I don't think that's necessary at that point. Yeah, you just have an explosive that's in that area set up, and you have like a minor laser to light it to ignite it, right? That causes an explosion. You don't need all of the effort that went into it, and the danger of someone with that further distance. Once you're doing 700, so 300 to 400 or 500 meters, then you're starting to worry about wind. You're starting to worry about the trees. There's a lot more things that you have to worry about. It makes enough sense to me. You got a tree here, perfect tree. They're just to block visibility to the Secret Service in case half of the team knows what's up and are actually, trying to save Trump, and the other half of the team are, compromised. So that way, not the whole team doesn't have to know which part of the team is compromised until now. Now I think it's probably pretty obvious, but you can see then all of a sudden, all right, so Trump is shot. People that are actually the important Secret Service, they're 60 feet, 40 meters at most away, and they have to rush to Trump. And then the incompetent people that people are laughing about on TV right now, all were right next to Trump. They were the people put in the front lines. So,
like Vincent Fusca, who is supposed to be JFK. This guy who
JFK Jr.
I feel like he was he just answered the call to be sitting in one of those seats one day, and then one of the people online were like, "Well, that guy looks like JFK Jr." So they had to go find him and say, "Oh, come back! He keeps sitting there. They think and now he's just JFK Jr. It's crazy. It's hilarious."
Which one's ayahuasca?
Yo.
That's Bill. Hi, Bill.
Oh, Bill. We love you.
What's up?
I do love you, Bill.
I
love you.
What do you think about all this?
Well, did the bullet go through the teleprompter?
Let's see the map.
Did it? It should have.
Right? They're saying the bullet went through the teleprompter, right? What is a teleprompter? It's a looking glass, right?
Mm-hmm.
You look through glass and you get print and you read and you speech, and people don't see you looking through the glass. So, like, we're through the looking glass, right?
Black is white.
Now, the thing that's weird about this whole graphic, doesn't it feel like a TV studio, and like that dude's like a cameraman at like an NFL event or something? Doesn't it feel like a TV set?
Well, yeah, exactly. What bothers me is the perfect trigonometry, because it's like, let's say you design something, like when if you're into if that's what they train you to do. They train you to do trig just for this kind of just for this event. And people ask you about math in the real world, and it's all for killing people.
So what's going on here? I think goes all the way back to 1960. Right? What happens in 1960? It's the first televised presidential debate ever. You remember who was in that one?
Kennedy and Nixon.
Nixon and Kennedy.
Right.
All right. What's big about that election? There's election fraud, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also a debate where Nixon won the radio. Everyone who listened to the debate knew that Nixon won, and everyone who watched the debate knew that Kennedy won. Right?
Okay. All right. So you're right there with me. All right. So what did it establish? It showed that if you listen to the radio, it was apparent who the better candidate was. Right? Like to most Americans.
Yeah, 100%. If you heard it, you listened for who was the best candidate.
All right. What was pretty new in 1960 as far as a majority media device? Color TV. Color TVs weren't that big in the 50s. So this was color TV presidential debate, and there was no studio audience. And Nixon looked square and out of it, and Kennedy was glowing.
Staunch. He refused to wear makeup. Kennedy wore all kinds of makeup. He had an extra candle, 2 extra candles of light put on him. Everything about it.
He probably looked like a clown in real life, but through the lens, it was perfect. So anyways,
ordained.
You know what the next time
ordained by the light.
That's an important thing. I want to reiterate what you just said. He probably looked like a clown in real life. I hadn't thought about it before because, of course, the more important thing is that he looked good for the camera. We're post-truth.
Yeah, like kabuki theater a little bit, right?
But
100%.
Nixon was disgusted. He refused to put on makeup. He didn't want to have those red lips in front of everybody with mascara. No. And you know what? He didn't look so weird in front of people, but on TV, he looked disgusting. He looked like a disgusting slop. Everyone thought he looked like a disgusting slop pig, like gaunt, dark, just terrifying. Look at that. Look at that picture.
So a few things are building with this 1960. People are ignoring their ears and trusting their eyes, right? Because the power of color television is an extension of what print does, right? McLuhan writes in the Gutenberg Galaxy, right, that print gives you an eye for an ear, right? When we read, we hear something, but there's no one talking. Like our eyes are creating that voice, right? That's the mechanism. So like print sort of shutters your ears and gives you an eye for an ear. And what television does is it takes that eye and it burns it with heat, right? It's hot media. It sears it, right? So the impression you got from that television debate made you forget everything that your ears were telling you. It was overrode. So that was the power of television manifesting it in 1960, right? So when's the last time they had a television debate with no studio audience in history? Do you remember?
Didn't that happen during COVID?
COVID.
No, the last
just now.
It was just this last one with Biden. And what happened in this televised debate? Through that television, we saw one candidate was like the Nixon, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that because I disagree. So
you
Nixon,
don't think Biden? People were like after that debate, people were like Biden, it's over for him. He needs.
That's a completely different question. The question is how much is Biden like Nixon? Because if I were, we're not comparing them. We're not comparing them as political. No. I'm comparing my I'm comparing my experience. If I were to listen to that debate, I wouldn't have thought Biden won it just because I listened to it. It's not just his visual; it's the entire thing. Nixon won the debate. He just didn't look pretty, right? This is different. This is a debate where on every level, it's more like Carter. When Carter was in his final debate with Bush, he lost because the CIA had kind of worked around Carter and they'd gotten his notes. This is according to Carter. He says, they stole my notes and they knew what I was going to say and all this other stuff. But really what it was he didn't know where they were going to go. He didn't know what to say. And he stumbled all over himself saying things which were not true because he didn't know what was actually being done by his team. Because his team were doing all sorts of things that made Watergate look like nothing. I mean, Carter's administration the worst of the offenses against the Weather Underground, kids being held over bridges, was not Nixon. It was under Carter's administration, right? And when he found out about that, he didn't know what he was able to say, essentially, right? So this is more of an embarrassment because he's saying, oh, well, no one died under my watch, forgetting that there are like mothers that he's supposedly been to funerals at that he doesn't remember for people that died under his watch, right? Like, the guy doesn't know what's going on. Nixon knew what was going on until Watergate, and then he just went down with the ship.
I mean, I wanna co-sign a little bit for a completely different reason. That I do think that the Biden-Trump debate, it was more of like, if you just relied on your ears and you didn't even pay attention to the visuals, you'd already come away with the clear winner. And now the assassination attempt, in sort of a very visceral way, it's kind of like a transition of like, no, don't pay attention to your ears. In fact, let's go ahead and take that ear away for a second. And now the new focus is going to be on like over the top visuals. And if you think about it, like the debates that we're supposed to have between Biden and Trump, and then I guess now between like Vance and Kamala Harris, right? But it's going to be like a less of a focus on what they're saying. And it's going to be way more, it's going to be form over function in a lot of ways, right? It's going to have less to do with the content of their speech and more to do with all the theatrics.
I think
this is like starting that tone.
I think we moved past that. I agree 100%, except for this. It's no longer a debate. That was the end of the debate. I don't see anyone pretending that Biden's going to win the presidency on any side. What we've got is that Trump is going to be the president again, and people are getting used to that idea. I hear the most mainstream YouTubers talking about it, laughing about it, figuring out how to deal with it, stages of grief. What we're getting used to, though, is apotheosis. This is not just like you just said, Bill. This isn't about truth. This is not about the experience that people witness, right? This is the experience people have, and it's less than what they witness. So what they get now is a guy was shot in the head and he survived it, so he's immortal, right? This is kind of the beginning of it, but it's going to become more and more like that. There's already the joke. The joke is how you subconsciously, a few years before something, people laugh, they shut it out, but then years later it works through you and it becomes truth in you that, you know, Trump is the Emperor God. Emperor God Trump was the joke that people made at the beginning of, 2016. And that's, I think, I'm not saying this is a good thing. I kind of think it might be a bad thing, but I don't know exactly. That we're about to start seeing Trump as Emperor God, where people start looking. I mean, this is a culture that's emerging worldwide. I mean, I was watching videos of interviews of people on the street corner in Japan talking about it. 16-year-old kids are like, oh, well, your president, the United States president, was friends with, Abe. And Abe Shinzo was a great man, and we, it's honorable that he was friends with him, and we have passion in our heart, compassion that his friend is still living. And you're just like, whoa, like, this is the way, like, the world's looking at this in a really weird, different way, man. Like, and that's scary, because if you start turning Trump into a god, like Caesar, well, like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, that's the most dangerous thing you could do.
What happened in that moment with the ear being the 20th century, right? Like, the 20th century Trump, television Trump, was killed on that stage. And when he arose with the fist, 21st century Trump was born, right? It was literally, he created probably one of the most famous memes of all time. That picture, like, that picture is going to live forever, right? But his television, like, he was completely identified with television up until that moment. He is now like the internet king. You know what I mean? Like,
he's been officially anointed as such, I would say. Even like, I've seen it all over he was just showing it, the ritual significance of the cutting of the ear.
I mean, does it not show some merit in any way that he was able to recognize the important? Let's assume that he didn't plan it and he wasn't in on it, right? To realize in that moment of trauma, like, oh, this is trauma-based programming. Oh, this is like this very symbolic moment. Let me capitalize on this. I feel like that kind of mentality is the sort of person that you want as a figurehead, someone that understands the potency of being a figurehead.
Sure. Well, I mean, there's a reason he's the king. he's
God Emperor, right?
Gotten there.
Well, I thought of Gethsemane, right? The story of Gethsemane, where the soldier gets cut on the ear.
Okay.
Like, I think of Trump thinks of himself as like God's soldier. 20th century Trump thought of himself as God's soldier, but now he's been touched. I believe in his heart that that's what the experience he's going through.
Yeah, I mean, if he did have some kind of near-death experience, well, I mean, and rebirth of the soul, God save us all from what he might do if he's like a switched on Trump.
Well, that's if God isn't real and he just hears voices in his head. But if there's actually something out there and you think of the life he's lived. I mean, he took a bullet that should have, like, maybe, yeah, that's like, the side of the country that's going to automatically identify with that, right? And there's a whole side of the country that can't identify with that. It's kind of weird. It's right back to identity politics. But what I'm getting out of this, though, is that people got their ears back. People, when they want the news, they listen to podcasts and radio. Who watches ABC, NBC, CBS? Boomers. They're the last vanguard of the television control system, right?
Yeah.
And you don't use your ears when you watch television. That's the whole point of it, right? It controls your ears. So there's this minority now that's bunkered into the TV narrative, and it's getting so bizarre, right? That if Trump is even like 40% saner after this, then it's over, man.
Well, that's the question. So, like, how much of this is apotheosis? So, like, you go through the motions. Does this just happen to you? Like, he is cut free of his telestial tether, and he's becoming so celestial that these things are just happening to him, that he can't help it, that he has to be a good person. He's cut off from, the dharmas of vice, and he's forced into, like, the obligations of alleviating karma. I don't know how else to put it, because it does seem like, if you're at that level, it's either that or this is the greatest psyop yet.
Well,
because
dude,
not only that, they remembered to use 22s to make it feel like it was like of the people.
What do you think RFK and Trump are talking about today?
I don't know, because like yesterday, RFK. Okay, well, let's talk about that in a second. Because there's a couple of things. There's a couple of things to that. RFK wanted to be the vice president, and yeah, the idea that he is the sync master. Okay. What do you want to say about synchronicity in RFK, though? What do you mean?
Well, that's a really timely, funny joke, because RFK says that synchronicity helped him to get in touch with God, and it got him on a certain path.
Totally.
And if Trump,
he's been doxxed for being part of our sync group, right? Yeah.
Well, if Trump saw the 1,000,000 to 1 shot, like, he knows he should be dead. That bullet, like that turn, like in his mind, he knows he should be dead.
Right. Unless it's all not, but even then, it's like, come on. If that bullet was there, then you have to believe in God or simulation theory or sync or like something, anything, something.
Well,
plot armor.
But like, it's the same. Listen, it's the same kind of water that sync forces you to swim in, because you could, like, from my eye on the surface, I'm like, that's staged, but how do you stage a bullet that nicks an ear?
Well, if it wasn't, if it wasn't a real bullet, and then it was like an explosion,
people dead.
This picture,
yeah, well, they can kill people. Like, there's all kinds of ways to like.
I know.
It could have been like a chip that was already in the ear.
They could have killed more. They could have killed more people and not even put them in the shot. They have that much money.
Guys, Occam's razor here is that it was a real bullet, and it was supposed to go through his head. It was staged for him to be dead.
I agree,
and it didn't happen.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. It feels like because if so many people are working towards a thing and it doesn't work out, it feels like an important lesson that nature is saying, hey, like the wave, it's not time to ride the wave. The wave isn't riding that direction. Things like that.
I have a question for Bill. I want to ask, what do you think is the connection between the death of Richard Simmons and the Trump thing? Because did you hear what I said earlier about it?
Well, I'll say this. 20 years ago, if you asked most people in America who they thought was like more intelligent or more respectful or the better person or the most impressive person, Richard Simmons or Trump, I think most people would have an overwhelming affinity and love for Richard Simmons, right?
Yeah.
But if those two people died on the same day, who would you grieve over more, Richard Simmons or Donald Trump? And I think most people say, oh, Richard Simmons. But
are we talking 90s Trump or are we talking 2020s Trump?
90s Trump. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, do you ever think marijuana will be legalized in your lifetime? And you go, no. So it's like, yeah, like 30 years ago, if you said, if they died on the same day, who would you be more sad over, Trump or Richard Simmons? You'd go, oh, Richard Simmons, right? But on this day, Richard Simmons dies and Trump should be dead. And I think most people would grieve over Donald Trump for taking a bullet on the head, right? I mean, even as a president, or am I wrong on that?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, but also right now, Trump in the 90s and Trump now, if anything, might have gotten more popular with a wider amount of people. Whereas Richard Simmons, the second that he retired, even we just say 2014 he retired, it seems like he probably started falling out of the limelight in the early 2000s or something as he started getting quite a bit older, right? So and now
it should have been Richard Simmons against Gene. If it was Gene Simmons versus Richard Simmons, you might have something.
Big time.
But he seemed pretty cracked, man. He didn't seem to be able to really keep it together for much.
Richard Simmons?
There's also something very altruistic about Richard Simmons, right?
Yes, he seemed like a really nice guy.
I feel
he
like
he was like a creature of the media. I don't know what to call him.
Yeah, but he did. But people
he
made people feel good, and it doesn't matter who he is because what he did was make people feel good. And the day he died was the day people stopped watching his videotapes, and I think he knows that.
Who gave him the second boost in his career? Do you remember? Howard Stern.
Okay.
He was huge on Howard Stern. I bet there's tape of Donald Trump in the studio with Richard Simmons. I'd almost guarantee.
Yeah, I somebody sent me an article saying that Trump was commenting about Richard Simmons being missing, and saying like, "Oh, we got to get him back. We need, we love him." So obviously there was a thing, but like, there's this whole story in the Vanity Fair or New York Times or something about Richard Simmons being like under the spell of some kind of black magic, with his being maybe held captive, like is this whole thing. I had no idea.
That's a Netflix special that I need to see now.
Yeah, it's a TV series apparently that I need to watch. But so when he retired, so forth, he kind of died as a media object, as something that's like has the attention of the eye of Sauron or whatever, that is like all behind all media. And so it's like two deaths. Like he died once, then he died again, both times related to this Trump shooter. So that's just, I don't know, that's strange. So I probably should watch every movie that Richard Simmons has ever been in too. He's probably made lots of.
But like the second death is traditionally like you die for real, like physically you have a physical death, and then the second death, I guess, is like the last time somebody says your name. But for the case of Richard Simmons, that seems to be inverted. It was like his first death was when people stopped saying his name, and now he's having a second death.
Yeah, it's true. And it's perfectly timed as always.
But we don't think of Donald Trump as being Donald Trump the Apprentice anymore. Right? The first thing you think about when you hear the name Trump now is president, which is insane.
I mean,
depends. I relate. So I'm gonna just say, like, for me, maybe I was just this weird young Republican kid or something, but I liked Trump more than Gene Simmons. I'll say, and also
Richard Simmons.
Freudian slip.
It's easy, right? It's easy to mix them up.
I kind of like them both. But no, I think I would say the same thing.
They both have sick widow's peaks, like the Afro widow peaks.
But also I thought, my whole life about Donald Trump a little bit less than other people. Like I was like, yeah, he's a guy, like he's in the 80s, which is good, like the leech, like lifestyles of the rich and the famous kind of thing. And then he talks on the Apprentice show, which I didn't really watch, and I just kind of knew it as the show that fired like Penn Jillette, the show that fired Tom Green, the show that fired some people. I didn't really think about. I didn't really think in Meatloaf. I didn't really think about it until years later when I started like now after he's been president, I've watched him like, oh, this is how he like A, judges up people. B, they're his friends a lot of the time who he's like gonna see again. And he's doing this C so that he can show the world what he's gonna be like when he's president. And it is essentially that he's gonna fire people. That's his whole shtick. He's gonna keep his enemies closer, you know. What's up, Sam?
Well, hello there. I wasn't expecting the camera to get turned on. Did you guys know the camera was turned on? They don't tell me anything. They don't tell me anything. Good conversation, by the way.
This is my favorite part. This is the part where it's... Hold on, right here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I feel better now. Sorry. So
there we go. Well, no, it's been an interesting week, interesting few couple of days. I couldn't help myself, but listening to what you gentlemen were talking about and perusing the chat as well. Shout out to the chat. But I'll just tell you the whole thing, you know, in the idea in terms of staged. Staged means that, well, it was staged. There's a difference between being staged and an inside job.
Word.
Gentlemen, it's very simple. He wasn't supposed to turn his head. That is the facts. Those are the facts. And now the timeline has shifted. The strangelets underneath Geneva have opened. And a new Mandela effect has been created.
Is it Berenstein or Berenstain now?
Oh, somebody check.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
That's like the token in Inception. You just have a Berenstain book.
All of a sudden, something changes back, and it's like, oh no, wait, we hopped back. You know, part of the timeline hopped back into correct mode. Absolutely ridiculous. No, that's the whole thing. He wasn't supposed to turn his head. 5 shots, gentlemen. 5 shots. Wait a minute. 5 shots before they engaged. 5 shots before they engaged fire back. Of course, I'm sitting there thinking, well, wouldn't you engage prior? And the whole idea and the concept of, oh, we had snipers in the building. You didn't have snipers in the building. You had your counter team that was ready to go bonkers once Trump didn't turn his head.
Holy God. Yeah. Wow.
Of course, right?
Wow.
And that's kind of what I was saying at the beginning. I don't know if you were here for that, Bill, but I was showing some pictures of the map there, and you see the idea that, I mean, like, let's look at the Secret Service, right? Like the Secret Service agents, because let's put up the video. Let's put up the video for a second of the Trump shooting, because everybody loves watching violence on TV.
Back to the left.
The reason I brought I just wanted quickly, because like this is more of a rant than I meant to be, was that you had people when they rush him that are pretty much, you know, the least efficient people you've ever seen. But when he's being shot, there are efficient people that eventually get there. They just take like 40 seconds. See, look at this guy. Look at that guy, okay? This is the guy that interests me the most. I think this guy's probably a legit Secret Service agent. Look at him. Look how he runs. Look how he's being careful not to get shot. Look how he jumps over the president. Look at these guys. The most efficient people were kept 40 meters away.
Because he wasn't supposed to need any help.
Right. And then the people that
shot. It was an elementary shot.
I don't mean to like be like you can't trust people. Oh, by the way, have we talked yet about JFK Jr. being in the video? We should do it. You guys
know how he points to him. He points to him before the shot. His hand is gesturing.
I mean, JFK Jr. in the video is pretty funny, and especially because after this all happened, let's look at it again. Like as it's going down, right? Because as this is happening, everyone is sitting down and hiding. Look at JFK Jr. I'm just calling him that. JFK Jr. in his fedora stands the entire time. He does not sit down at all. The people are being shot. Here he is, his hat again. You can see. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but just
I love that hat. What a studly hat.
Near the "You're Fired" sign, you can see
no
JFK
fear.
Jr. there. And look, his ear, he stands. Everyone, he's standing there. She's with him. She's with, like, oh, look at her. She's kind of bent. He just stands. Doesn't that say something to you? What does that say to you?
Pause. Rewind it a little bit. Rewind it just a little bit.
You'll like JFK.
Look at the woman at the right side of Trump's podium. Notice that if you watch what
happens. Pat from Saturday Night Live?
The hat. Well, if you zoom back in, when Trump goes down, she pulls out her cell phone. She's unfazed one bit. Look at her. She was ready for it. And the whole Twitterverse is sitting there wondering who the hell is that? And why did all of a sudden, if you look prior to this, she looks over in the direction of the shooter and then immediately pulls out her cell phone.
Also, where's her footage? Where's her TikTok account? Like, where did that video end up?
Bro, you think it's on TikTok when you know it's on Telegram? Come on. Let's be real. Look at her shirt, though. Mean tweets.
On Truth Social.
Mean tweets, though, it says right there. Mean tweets right there. So there's got to be something about mean tweets. We're going to you type hashtag mean tweets? Anybody done their due diligence? What are you guys even doing with your lives? Type in mean tweets. Let's see what happens. Latest. I'm actually scared to do this because I have uncensored on my Twitter. You never know what mean tweets could do. I don't know. But we're gonna have to look into that. I bet you mean tweets is something. Oh, yep. See, I'm glad I didn't do that. That would have been, yeah.
Well, no, but it wasn't the chick.
This isn't even that mean of a tweet. I'm just saying it gets worse from there.
In the mean tweets shirt though, it was the one.
News and bio.
It was the one next to the podium. To the right of the podium. She has sunglasses and a hat on.
Oh, the different one? I thought both of them had a phone, but yeah, okay. Sunglasses and a hat, white shirt, you're saying over here, this lady here?
Yes,
okay.
She looks.
Yep. She's good. She's got her phone, and look at her. She's like smirking. She's like smirking.
Yep.
She's like, I knew this was going to happen.
That's it.
Dude. But we all knew this was going to happen. That's kind of the thing.
Well, what was supposed to happen is that counterintelligence team or whatever, the snipers that were inside the building, not on top of the building. Once the chaos would have happened, then you would have seen a nice little event with a little bit more action. And then people would have said, "Oh, well, what's going on? Oh my gosh, we need to." And it would have been nuts. Here's the reality.
That's what's been blowing my mind because you would imagine the PR guy for Biden right now, like the PepsiCo employee who has to explain to him, "Look, dude, it's going to help your ratings.
Right.
We just have to get a couple shots in, okay? We're going to make sure you're safe." Like, and it's the only way, because otherwise.
What happened was when Trump went down, it was all of a sudden abort the mission, take them out, and play stupid.
Yeah.
Of course, they all think that all of you humans are stupid. Good thing you have a trusted media puppet here, making sure that you look at all the facts.
What a fail, though, right? Like, I mean, so that's the question is, what do you do with that? Like, the next thing is, he has to be president, or do you what do you got? What do you got next? I feel that was the Trump Shamu SeaWorld expression he makes, which is like, what's next?
Look,
like,
hey,
what
listen,
else is there?
Well, I tell you, if you listen to old Uncle AJ, I met Uncle AJ way back in Bilderberg, back in 2012. Met old Uncle AJ way back then. But old Uncle AJ says that we're just getting started. Old Uncle AJ says that the next thing that's going to happen is probably poison. And hell, if they're just going to be crazy about it, just fly a kamikaze drone into Mar-a-Lago. But hey, it's old Uncle AJ. Everybody has the crazy uncle, so who knows?
But see, if you drink exclusively Diet Coke, now all of a sudden you've eliminated one entire vector from being poisoned, right?
With aspartame? With aspartame? Wait.
There's a lot of stuff in Diet Coke, and I'm not even sure all of what it is because it's a secret recipe.
You know what the crazy part about drinking Coke out of a can is? Is that there's a plastic lining in the can that's leaching forever chemicals in your soda.
Did you hear the glitter conspiracy?
What is the glitter conspiracy? Everybody keeps talking about the glitter conspiracy. What is the glitter conspiracy?
Well, I think it's probably not microplastics in your testicles, but basically that there's only like a few producers of glitter.
There's only one major glitter company in the United States.
Yeah, and they won't tell you like who they're made, but they have like a major purchaser who might be the military, and then there's other people that use it in like food processing and all sorts of other things. They got to the point where they got someone to say like we would never reveal our like customers, and you know, they know that they wouldn't want anyone to know that it's actually glitter what they're using. It was a very strange conversation that was recorded that kind of inferred that glitter might be being used for some pretty like obscure subliminal purposes. And so yeah, I don't know. Researchers and zookeepers use glitter to track animals through their sparkly poop. There's all kinds of things people use glitter for.
I think Sam's on the money. You said chemtrails, which is sort of like just aluminum powder, right?
Well, here's the idea. You know, the more that you get those chemicals and those particulates, specifically, I guess, glitter, what then can happen is that you can then introduce ionic lasers and, you know, different fractal things that then would generate your Project Blue Beam in the sky, gentlemen. So how about that? Isn't it interesting how it all just kind of ties together there?
Nice infrared sauna we got going on there.
Yep,
Yeah.
before you know it, and there's like, oh, look, there's a whole bunch of aliens up there, and give up all your rights.
That is a good point, because I've been seeing a lot of like the new 3D projection technology that basically projects into a mist, where they'll have like just water spraying up and it gives like a 3D effect. But if you're coating the entire sky in these little particulates, you've kind of got like a dual purpose. First, you've got chaff, which will block any of like the anti-radar detection, but then you can also have that same sort of mist projection surface that if you want to do a blue beam, now you don't have to fly a bunch of little drones up there. You can actually just project it elsewhere.
You've definitely played Time Traveler, right?
Oh, Time Traveler is one of my favorites. Don't we have that on DVD? They released a DVD copy years ago.
So I have this transparent film I got from AliExpress that you can project on, but you could easily use like, you know, a vapor cloud as well to do this. But they use a weird mirror bubble thing basically, and then they had this projection of video, and they're green screens so that they're in kind of a 3D space and they can be seen from all angles. And you could walk around the bubble arcade. It was basically the coolest game ever. Do you remember this?
Like I said, I have it on DVD. They came out with a DVD copy years ago, and I don't know if it's still out there, if it's expensive now, but it came with a set of DVD.
To me, that's like, I need my bubble cabinet, right? Like that's I
you
feel like
you
this.
talking about Pepper's Ghost, right?
Yeah,
this Pepper's Ghost effect.
This is yeah, exactly. So you've got a bubble cabinet, and then you can see it from any weird angle. It's pretty sweet. It's actually incredible. It was an interesting game, and the whole setup was fantastic. Yeah, it deserves more. Deserves a lot more love, I feel like, because the guy's standing there in front of you in this little virtual space.
I played it in Dayton, Ohio.
Nice.
Physical, in person, for about 5 minutes. It's really hard.
Yeah,
it is not easy. Yeah, it's along the lines of what was it? Dragon's Lair and Space Ace. You know,
I think it was like got a laser disc base.
Yes, yeah.
It was out of its time for sure.
Oh, those quick event games are kind of crappy. I don't care what decade we're talking about.
I thought Dragon's Lair, especially once it was on iPod or iPad iPhone.
It's a fascinating and like classic Don Bluth style animation, but in terms of gameplay, it's just like one of those reaction games where you have to like stop the little red light when it hits like a certain tier.
Yeah, to get your tickets. Yeah,
exactly. But I don't know if I would classify that as like a fun game.
So you hate Dance Dance Revolution, I guess.
Well, I thought it was completely fun when the whole video showed up on YouTube, and I never had to play the damn game again. I was like, oh, look, I can just watch a whole Don Bluth 13-minute cartoon. Fantastic.
Well, it was a big indicator in arcades that it kind of told you as a kid, like, you know what? They can really do anything they want if they really wanted to.
Yeah,
They can just break off a piece of magic like Dragon's Lair and just drop it in this shitty arcade. And like they could do that all the time if they wanted to.
Yeah.
And really, like, the next 25 years was a slow revelation of that, wasn't it?
Waves fist.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think the big change though really came in Wolfenstein 3D. That was, but of course everybody really latched on to Doom. It's kind of when everybody kind of got the bug. But Wolfenstein 3D, I think 1992, was the first time that it drove a whole bunch of people away from stepping on turtles and, scooting down pipes into shooting Nazis, with a gun. And it felt like that you were holding the gun.
My Leben.
And then when you do the different difficulties, if you did it on very easy, you would have like the little image that
I'm looking up Trump synchronicities because like the number 7, the prophecy of the red heifer,
Well, how about this? Ephesians 6:11, because he was shot at 6:11.
Oh, that's right. That was a good one. Also, did you know that 6:11 gematria, that the value for 6:11, one of them is assassination?
Now here's an interesting one. Did you see the video of did you see the video of the so-called prophet from 3 months ago?
Oh yeah.
Trump was going to get shot in the ear.
Right. Yeah. See, like shaman, Trump, ear, prophecy, bald dude. Very cool.
Yep, correct.
There he is. Right there.
There he is.
Her.
No, not
this is a sync somehow though, right? Come
Katy
on, Alex.
Perry's Woman's World thing
with the Pepsi cans from the
and her short circuiting eyeball. Yeah,
all made like kind of like a Mexican or a Venezuelan purse out of bottle caps.
We're having problems here.
That happened today, or is
that was a while ago? I think
you got to hear the transformer thing in the background.
I think it's cool. I think it's cool when you break down like that, ladies. Don't you worry. Let me just put on the sound for it, I guess, because like this is like kind of like that Alf episode where they talk about like the best of that happened this season.
Saw a red wave coming out of Michigan, and then I saw Oklahoma, and there was embers of people, and they were all on these. They had torches all throughout Oklahoma, and they were raising up these torches that looked like fire, and they were bringing forth a new patriotism upon the nation.
That sounds kind of like the KKK. I don't like it.
It just kept spreading like fire all throughout America, all throughout. And I saw Trump rising up, and then I saw an attempt on his life.
That scares me. Am I the only one who doesn't like white hooded dudes with fire being like associated with Trump in this dude's dream? Okay.
This bullet flew by his ear, and it came so close to his head that it busted his eardrum. And I saw.
Okay, just to remind people, this was like 3 months ago, right?
Correct.
Like, it was like April or something like that.
So close to his this bullet flew by his ear, and it came so close to his head that it busted his eardrum. And I saw he fell to his knees during this time frame, and he started worshiping the Lord. He got radically born again.
Well, wouldn't you? I mean, oh my God! If you make a shot in the ear like that, I feel like you're gonna get pretty religious about it.
If you go look, 3 bullets whizzed by his head before he was able to get down.
That's Bill's point. I feel like Bill's point is decent. That like if that happens to you, it changes a man. I don't know. Do you agree, Bill? What do you think? Are you still there?
Well, the whole notion is he a sociopath? Is he on the spectrum? Is he normal? Is he so out of touch with normal reality because
I don't have time for anybody who's not neurodivergent enough to play games, all right?
But I mean, okay, let me put it this way. There have been people in Major League Baseball who have gotten hit in the face with a baseball and have never been the same hitter. Right?
Yeah. Seriously.
Like
some people died. No, like didn't yeah.
So when you
avoid killed that, several people.
when you narrowly miss that, and for certain 99 times out of 100 you're dead or a vegetable and you've got your life back, like that doesn't happen every day. And who knows? I don't know, man. It's weird times, but it's streaming. That's the thing. I swear to God, I took videotape for the first time of like the ABC news coverage after it happened, because they were not saying assassination. They were not saying gun. They were not saying shot for like 35 minutes.
CNN had on their website, "Oh, he fell down."
It was the strangest thing I have ever seen.
They should have been like he got knocked down, but he got up again, and they'll never keep him down.
The furthest they took it were popping sounds at one point. I remember the first time I saw the clip on ABC, they drowned out the gunshots. You couldn't hear the gunshots.
Well,
Now,
you know
so
what
now here's one angle of argument. TV has a responsibility because of their massive reach that they have to change things for the sake of the people. We know that's not true because we have internet. And most people were watching that on their phone regardless. So now we have TV rules, but now they're exposed into this grotesque programming minority where they're trying to control something, but they're outnumbered. Did you see that MSNBC thing, the Morning Joe crew?
Well, the Morning Joe crew could not even broadcast on Monday morning.
Yes, they took them off the air.
Correct. Right.
And did you see their meltdown?
Oh, well, from this morning?
They came. There's a meltdown where the guy goes, "Listen, if you ever take us off the air again, we don't have a show."
Well,
you know the whole "if Trump gets elected, I leave the country" shit.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, that'd probably be the best thing for MSNBC's ratings in years. My God, let's just get the big news daughter off the damn screen.
What does a world look like without CBS, ABC, and NBC? Most of us know that.
Looks like the internet. That's
Well, it seems like we're being pushed towards.
There's no such thing, bro. Let me black pill you. Let me YouTube pill you. I'm the least successful person that I know at this point, except for my friends. Everyone on YouTube has to be successful with 5 million views. If you don't have a 5 million view video, it ain't nothing. So any video I've ever had that you think, oh, he got like 100,000 views, nobody cares. All right, 5 million views. That's a new goal if I want to be even considered a human being. Now, most of my friends who were YouTubers, like let's talk about Ian Crossland, God, a saint amongst men. Now I call him a saint because he's committed at least a couple dozen miracles, and it only takes 3. But you have to understand he's a good guy. He worked with YouTube back when Disney bought the YouTube Creator Studio in Los Angeles. Ludwig, Charlie, a lot of the most famous YouTubers are all directly through the YouTube Creator Studio. Now, again, Disney owns a big chunk of, if not all of at this point, CNN, and they own a huge, and like Murdoch is, I don't know what you call them, bud buddies. I don't know, there's a word for it. What like Murdoch is doing with Disney and CNN and with Fox and the way that works. Fox is Disney now too, except I think there's something weird where like Rupert Murdoch owns part of the news part of Fox. But Disney's Fox. So you got the left and the right essentially that are controlled. And yeah, they lost viewers in that generation and they created a new thing that they just kind of watched and they can completely control, which is YouTube and everything else on it. And the people that you're going to see promoted with like, because again, 100,000 views is like minimum for like my video to even begin to be suggested. Right? 5 million view videos. That's the kind of videos that you're going to see. Guess who gets to do that? It's somebody who has access to all of the YouTube Creator Studio money that's able to promote their videos. I think that's a big thing that they're doing, obviously. Setting up advertisement, plugging promotions, putting people in, having Mr. Beast on your cooking show. All of these things are set up so that this joke of a social media platform that you think is, horizontal, it's just nonsense. It's nonsense. Sorry. It's not real. Bye.
Can I get that as a bumper sticker?
Okay.
I mean, the whole thing. I mean, I don't know if the whole thing. Okay, no, you know what? The whole thing would probably be one of those stickers that you get on the back windshield because that was a lot. So I don't think it'll just fit on the bumper.
We're talking about a wrap at this point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I want that on the EP. Where's the EP cut?
I love you guys.
That's great. Fantastic.
Well,
you guys heard about it. 5 million. You guys need to tighten up now around here. All right. You guys want to get the noticed. You're the coach. 5 million. I expect 5 million next week.
Yeah, this is memory man. We're gonna break the mold. You have no idea. There's there's a strategy here.
That just like that comment said, all my favorite channels get like banned. Once you get to a certain level, once you get to like 500,000, a million, now you're like firmly on the radar. If you thought it was bad now saying certain words that were off kilter, unless you're already in that clique and they can come to your like support, I know so many people that just get their channels wiped after they hit 500,000. It's almost like there's this internal milestone and there's somebody 100%. Out there that's like, okay, it's time to wipe out all the 500,000s today.
It's not almost like, it's definitely because like there are platformed goals and like, so what it is I forget, let me look at the YouTube thing. YouTube silver, gold, what's the other one called? Like Ultimate Creators Award. Basically, it doesn't stop at silver. You know that.
There's like a
silver
gold
award, gold award, diamond award, right?
you
And
go.
you've seen the 10 million subscriber after, because gold award's 1 million subscribers. So we could get that in a second. But then custom creator award, right? This is the Mr. Beast PewDiePie style award. There's only 17. I think 18 is the holy number. And then there's the red diamond creator award, right? Look at that Masonic apron. Oh my God. It's just...
you know what? Triple H ended up getting one of those not too long ago for WWE. Yeah, well, he ended up getting Paul Levesque.
Right.
He ended up doing a video when they sent him that little red.
Well, that pro wrestling makes me, I got to bring up the fact that my thought, which is because I am a pro wrestling fan, and my pro wrestling eyes watched the Trump thing, and it was just like, it was just so perfectly.
It was supposed
Wasn't he supposed to go to a WWE or something? What was he supposed to do? Wasn't he supposed to go that evening to like a World Wrestling or Ultimate Fighters champion?
Tonight or yesterday night? Last night he went to the UFC, which is
he went
now
even
owned
with
by
his
the
ear.
same company. Yeah, he went and he had a big. He had the long walkout entrance.
Well, he went to the He's in the RNC.
No, that was the RNC. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
dude. If he went to the wrestling match, I don't know what timeline we're all on.
Same thing. That's the point. The same fucking thing. The lesson of like a little blood goes a long way. Like, if you're familiar with wrestling matches, they refer to it as getting a little color.
Well, I could have sworn that Cheney mentioned that when he falls down behind the podium, he's like cutting the top of his.
I want to know. Yeah, that's what they do. The wrestlers do. They blade themselves or whatever. And one of the security guards could have just nicked his ear or whatever with it, and it would have been fine. But he lost his shoes too. Isn't that another like ritually significant something?
Wizard of Oz, dude.
Yeah, let's talk about that. The theosophic link. The theosophic link of your shoes. What do you think about that, Bill?
Those are his Jack Ruby slippers, man.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
So did he miss the house? Did the house?
You had everything from the JFK assassination all the way down to that. So
they missed the money shot of.
It was a money shot, and it was an easy shot, and he turned his head. And people can talk about whether or not they believe in divine intervention or not. All I know is that he turned his head, and 3 bullets whizzed by them. People died, and there's 2 other people who are injured.
You know how there was Coke, and then they made new Coke?
Right.
And so we grew up with Disney, and this woke shit is like new Disney.
Totally. And how kids don't like old Star Wars when you show it to them because like they already seen the spoilers so many times they don't even know what Star Wars is, but they know Luke is your father, but they like Jar Jar Binks.
So this is new Trump.
Yeah.
But it's sort of flipping the script.
Yeah.
This might be the improved, right?
That was exactly my thought. That was exactly my thought. Because he's going to die, but his apotheosis will make him live forever. So what the new Trump is matters more. I was just thinking that. I totally agree.
When a Pokemon evolves, like that's.
there's kind of like a fork in the road here. Like this will definitely either make Trump better overall or worse overall. And there's no way that he comes out of this neutral. Like he doesn't come out the way that he went in. So I don't know if I'm exactly sold on this. Gives us a better Trump or a worse Trump, though.
Well, here, listen. I'll tell you,
Trump now.
There's one more camera angle that is very interesting. I've not seen that one up yet.
I want to say something. Yeah, the picture that's been going around supposedly of the bullet in the air.
Yeah,
that was by the New York. That was by
photograph.
Taken author.
The same guy who took the picture of Bush on 9/11, getting the shot in the ear, or getting told in the ear, that there's a plane that has been hit the towers.
Sure.
The guy took both pictures.
Sure.
Supposedly.
He's
but I
done
don't
ear
see how
pictures
that
all of his
picture's
life.
even fucking possible. How can you actually take a picture?
Well, he wasn't.
You could if you had the right camera, but you'd have to be waiting for it, and I feel like you'd have to be taking so many pictures a second, and you'd have to have such a high exposure. You'd need to use a Canon, a Canon camera.
That bullet
probably exactly what he used.
What picture would we be seeing now?
This is what we would see. The final form, bro.
What if that first bullet is actually a nanotechnology UAP that was directed in some like quantum slow motion that was designed to just nick the ear?
All right, I get it, Bill. You don't just have to do Occam's razor. You're really good at all the trick shots too. All right,
I mean,
I give it to you.
I can build on that. It might have been a stream of Gamadians, and that they were basically spinning and creating golden nanoparticles.
I do think it is someone talked about the timeline thing, and I do think it's like, if you think about multiverse dimensionality, the idea that there's entanglement means that there's so many other probabilities out there. This is such an improbable reality that we're all kind of universally like, wow, how improbable. And it's incredible because that means that this is the most unique timeline. It's very Jet Li in the one, because it means that so many other timelines had Trump die in them. I've been in a car where my friend was like asleep at the wheel and he almost hit the side divider, like splitting the car in half, like in Freaky Friday, and I screamed at him and he moved to the right. And then he was like, man, like, I just felt that. Like, I just felt like all the versions, like many versions of us that died, and that this is just one, like the one radio station that kind of got off on that path. I feel very similarly about this, about the Trump shooting, that this is a very unique circumstance, this timeline that he would live that. And it is so perfect that it does feel like a time traveler kind of thing. Like, it's all set up so perfectly. But I wonder also, how could it be? How could you prepare to turn your head just like that, even if you could, have people turn back the clock for you so many times? It just feels too synchromistic. It feels magical.
What's so crazy about the outrage of the sort of far left, in the sense of I wish he got shot, or how do you miss, is this, if you think in timelines, they're saying the timeline would be better if that event went through, was successful. And I think that's just on the surface absurd, but
scary as hell.
Yeah, totally.
It's scary as hell.
Well, you have to imagine these are the same people that have been ignoring Biden and imagining what they think the world should be like forever. And so they're really shocked by the debate. There's only 6%, maybe 12% of the Democrats that are shocked by the debate because they're the only ones watching the debate. Most of them are living their lives, having beliefs about what they think the world should be like. And
this is true.
The few that are paying attention to it are like, this is bad. If you really want to get to where you're going, you're not going to, if you throw this party, it's not going to help. And it's just, most people are saying, well, screw you, man. They've been saying that for years and I've just been blocking people. I know what to do. Well, here's the thing. You're about to hit an impasse where reality checks will stop people from living that fantasy. There's not any more room to it anymore because all of the infrastructure of everyone else working together to make it possible for you to live as a cat or whatever, like, that's all it's freaking expensive. You don't get it. Like, it takes a lot, and it's all, the dream reality is disintegrating.
It's a small price to pay for us to be cats, though.
It's true. It's true.
I was saying that was going to be the next song on the album, on the EP.
It's a small price to pay for us all to be cats. Writing it down.
I don't see Trump debating Biden on a stage ever again.
Well, they're supposed to debate in September. I do know that Lester Holt asked Biden about it yesterday. Biden said, hey, in fact, Lester Holt asked him, hey, would you debate sooner? And he was like, I'm going to debate him when I'm supposed to in September. And here's the question. Is he going to make it to September?
Trump or Biden?
Biden, because yeah, right. No, but in terms of Biden, I've heard whispers, people saying, oh, well, no one's talking about Biden. No, Nancy Pelosi is calling everybody. They're worried about the up and down ballots and Biden going to tank, both the Senate and the House and possibly even the state houses. And they're taking all of their money right now, all the money that was supposed to go to Biden, and putting him at least into the state houses in terms of the money, because they're now starting to, I'll tell you what, all those federal government employees are starting to update their resumes on LinkedIn.
Yeah, they're shorting Biden.
This just feels like, because to me, I used to think, okay, that would be too crazy to have a long-term plan. How could people really work like in House of Cards to have a 8-year, 16-year, 24-year conspiracy, right? And what is this? You've got a completely destroyed economy with a completely fragile government, with a completely usurped local power by a disrupted central planning commission. It's the perfect opportunity to build a new world order. That's what's the most. I mean, people like Trump. People like the idea of him surviving. But if it weren't him, you got to look at, like, if it were anyone else with this circumstance, like, how, imagine, put yourself in the Tenacious D's shoes. You know what I'm saying? Like, the way they look at it is that the most horrible thing possible just happened because this dude just became Caesar God, and the rest of the world will love it.
Well, what I'm wondering about though is how can people be so butthurt and have somebody just live in their mind rent free all the time? All the time. Was it Trump derangement syndrome? Could you imagine waking up every morning and the first thing you think about is an NPC that has nothing to do with your life? Absolutely ridiculous.
Usually it's every time I open my phone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but people actively are like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get it back at Trump today? And how is Trump going to ruin my life? Oh my gosh, we're about to run out of milk. It's all Trump's fault.
I agree with the puppet. I also want to say, Andreas, to push back a little bit, I don't think that you necessarily have to have a 24-year plan, at least not on the surface. The same way that if you were to sit down and you're like a chess master, you don't necessarily know like the next 24 moves you're going to make, but you know every time someone else makes a move, what your 24 moves from that move might be, and then a third move. So it's not like you're ever actually playing out steps 1 through 24, but you at least have like 7. You're playing 5D chess in a way, right? So like, if condition A happens, well, then I go over to, option B. And as long as you've got more than just option A that requires 24 consecutive steps, you got to kind of be like more flexible. You have like an organic thing. It's almost like freestyle rappers. Like, they don't necessarily come to the microphone with 100% like all original lyrics every time. They kind of have like these little bits and pieces. Like they're almost like folding proteins in a way, and they're like taking little bits and pieces that they know fit together well. And if you've got enough of a sort of like a repertoire that you can put those pieces together, well, now you can kind of like play jazz. So if Trump turns his head a little bit and it grazes his ear, if they had some professional jazz players on the scene, they could have probably played out the rest of the song, but they didn't. They had some guy that got kicked out of jazz club after like 3 meetings, apparently.
Bingo.
Let me just talk about the Johnson Corey Tchaikovsky reaction. So if you do chemistry, you'll find that sure, things react with all sorts of different ways, but really, if you do something else will happen. If you cause a reaction to happen, that particular reaction will happen. If you give the certain agonist, if you hit something with the right sticks in the right direction, it will go off towards the right carrot. You can control anything. And I think it's, kind of telling in this like Trump metaphor that we're using maybe a little bit of the Darth Sidious thing. Where's my picture there, right? Here, let's open that up right there. And then this one too. This one's really fun. I like that one too. Okay. So basically, you've got this kind of idea of Sidious because Sidious is a beloved character. So it's not something that like the audience knows he's the bad guy, right? But most people in the universe, in the Star Wars universe, think he's this great, benevolent dictator. He's a chancellor from, this world of, the impoverished people, even though he comes from a world that's like dynamically classed, right? Where there's like what he considers to be the underworld, essentially, which are run by, Jar Jar Binks people. And he's this sort of humanist who, they're the elite in that scenario. He's ended up in like total power. And eventually, he ends up with so much power that he's able to manipulate Mace Windu. And I think this is kind of like the key scene of Star Wars, right? Is that he's manipulated Mace Windu to stand right there. And Mace Windu's thinking about it as it's happening because he's about to attack this guy, which is his chess move, which is the most logical chess move to make. But Sidious knows that, and he's set it up so that he'll be attacked right there, and he'll look weak because he's just been electrocuted all through electrocuting Mace Windu. And Anakin is seeing this, and he has to make his chess move because it's not just a 2-player game. There's all sorts of players that all have to react and make their moves. And if you know all of the reactions that happen, then you're not just, a jazz musician, you're a freaking chemist, and you're an alchemist, and you can control people because you say, do what thou wilt. Just so long as, for the love of God, you do what you wilt, then you'll do exactly what I want, right? And Mace Windu sees that, and he freaks out because he's like, wow, you've planned everything, every free will choice that we've all made for the entire 3 movies, even to the point of me standing here like I'm on a freaking roller coaster, right? That's kind of that's the vibe I get from that.
That's what television is. That's television, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's biblical television, and it's all the same thing, right? Bible television is all metaphor.
Across the globe. Everyone loves TV, but we don't realize how insidious the motherfucker is. Now, if we go back to the Trump thing and how this movement and the death of the TV empire, right? TV took the spell of print and heated it up so hot that was the eye of Sauron, right? It was the television networks, their programming, their control. What's the last name of the kid who got shot? Who was the assassin? His last name is Crooks. Who invented the television? The Crooks.
Yeah, William Crooks. Who was also like one of the leading spiritualists.
So television shot and tried to kill Trump, hit his ear, which is what television does. It destroys the ear. But Trump, in a twist of fate, because of his involvement in cyberspace, in the internet, he prevailed. Like, this is meme magic at its core. Right.
Even though, shout out to Philo Farnsworth
and
Philo Farnsworth.
Yeah, because he was a Latter-day Saint, so I have to shout him out.
Yeah.
Well, so Crooks in particular, I think, was behind cathode ray tube in particular,
and the X-ray,
like TV.
Yeah. What Philo Farnsworth, inventor, television pioneer, image dissector, video camera tube, first fully functional, complete all electronic television system. Whatever, I
believe he was the American with CBS, right? Philo Farnsworth, whereas William Crooks was British.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, just saying, he's freaking Mormon.
I got another weird synchronicity here too, but in the movie, No Country for Old Men, which feels like a good representation of this new coming election, but there is a scene where Woody Harrelson, I believe, gets shot in the ear, and Woody Harrelson has a connection to the JFK assassination, right?
And because he's in the movie Fly Me to the Moon, which just came out,
right?
He plays the MIB guy in charge of faking the moon landing, connected to the backdoor to the Nixon administration. In that movie,
and he was in Cheers, which is exactly what Destiny did when he heard that Trump was shot. So,
and he was also, he's born on July 23rd, so he's a 237 guy. But his dad was also born on July 23rd, and was, possibly one of the JFK assassins. So that kind of subtext plays into his casting in that role in the Fly Me to the Moon.
You think?
Somewhat, yeah.
Fly Me to the Moon is pretty bad.
Well, in terms of
in
terms of Woody Harrelson, we all know one thing that he proved: that white men can jump.
I kill me. Thank you. That was a very alpha moment.
And if anyone is disappointed by Fly Me to the Moon, I do have to recommend what I think is now my favorite Kubrick faking the moon landing movie. It's called Operation Avalanche. It was almost impossible to find.
No.
It's
I
by
saw this on TV.
It's by it's a mockumentary movie by the guy that was in Nirvana, the band. The show.
Really? Oh yeah.
That's it right there. That was the one
it's Matt Johnson. Yeah, this freaking guy. He's so funny. Where'd he go? Come back. There he is, right there. There he is. Yes. I like him. I think
so. If you haven't seen his version of Operation Avalanche, it is well worth seeking it out.
Yeah, it's on the internet. I feel like you can stream it. We watched it on like Netflix or something like that. Where just stream, is that the thing that people use these days? Just watch.
What are
And
the
it's a-
kids using these days?
Yeah, right. And it's Roku channel free with ads, and Plex it's free. So watch it on Plex. Yeah, get yourself watch that movie. Actually, I thought it was really good. I am glad that you saw it recently.
Well, the preview before Fly Me to the Moon was Twisters, right? And in the original Twister, he actually got Kubrick's personal permission to use footage from The Shining.
Yeah, that's right.
And so
that was the first time I ever saw any of The Shining, because I was
in
like
the preview for
6 or
Twisters,
10 or
the whole motif is twins, right?
Yeah.
And if you take the words twins and sisters and combine them, you get Twisters.
Oh, and yeah,
Right.
you know the whole thing where he what's the leather strap Jewish, what's it called?
Yeah.
Tefillin, because in the Twister ending scene, he ties a tefillin around his arm because like they're stuck there, and he has a strap, right? So what he does is he straps himself to a building with this leather belt. He whips out his belt and he wraps it around his arm, right? So it's like this tefillin thing that happens, that he's got to do this like mitzvah at the end to wrap his arm to save his woman and himself, and to tie them to ground. They're grounded.
There's also a scene with where they're driving and they show the odometer. There's a 237 on the mileage, and then they stop, and that's the second where the tornado splits into two, and he says, "Oh, we got sisters."
So Flawed
it's like
can't swim.
twin
Our buddy
sisters of The Shining.
Flawdzilla, who's on Base AF, he's black, and I don't know if he thinks it's related. I disagree, because I had a friend who surfed who was black, so I don't think it really is. But I think maybe it's because he's from the Midwest. I think that's a more reasonable reason. And so anyway, I was talking about like I could teach him to swim because I was trained as a lifeguard, and I was a lifeguard. I used to think I would just become an alcoholic. When I was like 10, I was like, I'll become an alcoholic and travel the world. And when I can, I'll just find beaches and work for them. Like I thought that was like a good thing to do. Anyway, right. But I remember as a kid in junior lifeguards where they trained us, they took us on a field trip to the movie theater to watch Twisters. And I thought that was weird. Like, they also took us in this film trip. It's
educational.
In our engineering science school, they took us to watch October Skies, to learn about rockets. I was like, to me, the whole, anytime I'm forced to see, even if it's a good movie, I'm like, especially if it's a good movie, then I'm like, this is weird. This is some weird propaganda moment where my parents weren't involved and the school said, yeah, this is what we want to indoctrinate him with. It always felt weird that Twisters was one that they prepared me with. And it was before I'd ever seen The Shining. So it was like my intro to The Shining was,
You're a Twister. You're probably not alone in that.
Yeah, which is so they tie it to a traumatic memory. So when you're a little kid, the thing you're seeing is people are dying, you're freaked out, you can't process it. Just record all this, and then later on, when you're older, maybe you'll be able to process it then. It's a very interesting MK Ultra trick to get you to memorize things. It's very
I had a very formatively terrible dream, recurring nightmare about death and a Grim Reaper type figure where my mother in the dream was Helen Hunt from Twister.
Dude.
So and then I was being pursued, and she was off in her Jeep, and I was trying to get to her, but she ran off.
I always thought Helen Hunt was super hot because I love trancers. So
yeah, I recently watched that on your recommendation, and it's fantastic, actually.
It's really good. I watched Austin Powers recently, and I had to deal with the fact that I used to find Elizabeth Hurley, is that her name, attractive, and mainly I only have a hard time with that because I have idiopolitical issues with England, which I also think is weird. I should get therapy. There's a movie called The 39 Steps, which is a fantastic Alfred Hitchcock movie. I don't know if you had the time. I would recommend this movie above all others this week. It's about a guy who has to find a spy, and he ends up tracking the guy down in a circus, and he's one of those memorizers. He's able to memorize anything. He's how much does the average elephant weigh? Oh, well, 739 pounds. Am I right, sir? Kind of a thing. And he has to ask him, what are the 39 steps? Because he's memorized that instead of having it on microfilm. And it's pretty great. It's a pretty great movie. I highly recommend. But it's also got that kind of vibe of if you're in a traumatic situation, you can photographically memorize something that you can't really process right now.
Well, that's the origin. There's a book called Art of Memory by Francis Yates, and I can't remember the exact original story from this, but the Art of Memory is framed as this this auditorium hall. It collapsed and it killed everybody inside except for like one dude, and the one dude was able, by using this traumatic event, to eventually find out where every single person was seated here, so that he was the one person that was able to connect like the families with, you know, the remains of all the different deceased people. And it was because, and this is the premise of like a memory palace, where you actually use, in his case, a traumatic event, but you use that to kind of take this this snapshot, like a photographic memory, in order to remember where every single person was, and he attributed that to the traumatic moments.
Go back to the cover of that book real quick.
Francis Yates.
Yeah, and zoom in to that third eye. What is that first word?
Let me find a better version of the cover, because that was a low-res cover.
It says Oculus, right? That's the name of the centerpiece at the One World Trade Center.
Oculus Imagination.
And it's also the name of the first readily available over-the-counter VR headset, right? And this memory palace, you used to use print as the formative way to start your journey in the construction of your memory palace. But over time, television robbed that cognitive pathway in the brain and substituted it as something that overtook the brain, right? It overrode that cognitive pathway. That's why you see the idiocracy in America, is because our ability to construct these memory palaces are retarded by the television programming, right? But we're seeing this tribal.
I checked it out. We're totally allowed to use that word
through cyberspace, and we're starting to recreate these memory palaces. But what we're going to see is that the dominant bridge to the memory palace is going to be VR with AI. So the book and TV are dead. And it's all Western Hermeticism, and it's all in that book, and it's all Giordano Bruno. Yeah, it's all in that fucking book, man.
Interesting.
Anybody want to add?
I put a link.
I'm lost.
Yeah, people were talking about JD Vance, his VP.
You guys got nothing on that?
I'm a huge fan of the Francis Yates book. I mean, it's one of the most occulted books ever. He breaks down the Globe Theater and how the Globe Theater was actually a memory palace. He breaks down, or she breaks down so many different aspects of like the ancient techniques of memory. I think it's like one of the most seminal works. It's not an easy read. It's like actually a very difficult read.
We should focus on memory more than anything else. We've forgotten more
we've got
about
memes
memory
now.
palaces.
I think memes are the new memory palace, because now like a meme describes so much more than just what's on the surface. Like you basically, if you have the right meme.
It could be if like meme lords had to study like in school how to do memory palaces, essentially. The problem is that a lot of what is a meme, like I see, and maybe it scares me, is it because of the plethora of people that are just trying to produce and inscribe new memes. You see like really bad meme grammar. I feel like that's something that needs to be addressed, is the problems with meme grammar, because what a meme is it something that people share that you're able to latch onto in order to signify a new concept or a different like that you can then share, like, well, how do you feel about this? Knowing that you feel about this and you feel about that, then how do you feel about this? Usually it has like syllogism. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people will take something that like they feel about, they'll add words to. This is like the left can't meme kind of issue. It's even worse than that though, because a lot of people can't meme. It's just they don't understand the concept of you latch onto a form of communication with someone. I think the easiest way to meme is if you've communicated with someone who doesn't speak your own language, or you meet people that are from a different culture. You're like, hey, we all saw Nickelodeon. Oh no, this demographic saw Nickelodeon. Oh, we all, go to the bathroom, basically. That's where it gets.
The core thing in the art of memory, with which Bruno was the master of, is rhetoric. And what is rhetoric? Well, when you develop rhetoric, you're able to speak in the moment in front of a group of people and change their minds, right? And back then there was no teleprompter, right? So if you could hold court in front of 50 to 100 people for 90 minutes and speak from memory, the fact that you could do that, because it was so rare, automatically it was like that power of television. And then as they investigated what you had to say, now all of a sudden you are somebody. So this elevation into rhetoric was the whole goal of the art of memory, because then you were somebody. And what was the whole notion about the bullet going through the teleprompter? We do not have politicians who speak rhetoric in the truest sense, right? It's all mass produced and fed to them in like pre-written speeches. It's not this art of memory type of speaking. And when you hear it, it's authentic and you can identify it. Obama was close, in some of his speeches, he reached that sort of zone. Clinton sometimes could reach that sort of zone.
But those were still speeches, written speeches they were reading off of a teleprompter, right?
But you could tell that their grasp of the global stage was so far beyond yours because of their position and their intelligence. And it was being communicated through their rhetoric. You knew that you were getting something
knew
from
how
somebody.
to read a script well.
Like, maybe we've just lost touch so much with powerful speakers that we don't know what it is anymore.
Do you believe that Trump is a powerful speaker in terms of communication?
I think that we will find, like what we've been saying is that I think we'll find out in the next few months if this transforms some connection and how he interacts with his audience. I mean, again, this is not the same person from 8 years ago that we're seeing.
It's not the same person from Saturday morning.
And it's not that same person. But I think his message is going to be so strong and it's going to go so viral, and that nothing Biden has done over the last 3 weeks of cleanup duty has gone viral, right?
No. In fact, it keeps getting worse. He calls the president of Ukraine Putin, and he calls Kamala Vice President Trump, and he says former Trump, and then he says he can't even talk. Oh my God.
Yeah, so his meme
I
package
feel like that whatever Biden's going through though, like they got if you could take like a pill to feel what Biden was on, it must be like the hardest battle. No? Like that must be like he must fight all kinds of personal dragons every day.
I've heard that dementia can kind of be almost like a psychedelic experience, where the way that your some of the hallucinations are based on your brain and growing more and more serotonin receptors, I guess, because it's not getting it enough, and then all of a sudden you become overstimulated, and it's sort of effectively the same as taking a lot of LSD. Is if you start having hallucinations and dementia, or even some forms of Alzheimer's can reflect the similar symptoms of somebody that took an LSD.
I just think that the rubber in the mask is just starting to upset the actor who's wearing it. So it's starting to itch his face, and it's like, oh no, you know what? I
think that many staples to the brain might do something to it, though.
That's right. Well, but anyways, you guys were talking about Twisters. Can I just make a little comment real quick? The new Twisters movie, Twisters with an S. The director says that movies shouldn't preach. So guess what? There is no mention of climate change. How about that?
Weird. Well, there have been Twisters for a long time. Although I gotta say, it's weird that they have so many Twisters in the United States and nowhere else. I mean, I feel like Twisters. Looking for the history of Twisters.
Yeah, Leah, hold on. Let's talk about that. I've always sat there and wondered about the history of Twisters. Can you imagine someone in the Old West? They're saying, "Hey, listen, we're gonna move west," and then all of a sudden they just camp out for a while, and then the next thing you know, the sky becomes black, and then a Twister.
You skipped a part.
You
skipped a major key element there.
What element?
Okay, so when you camp out, you don't have to light everything on fire for like thousands of miles.
Sure.
This is a problem that's been going on, and so eventually you have a place that is conducive to twisters that wasn't before because it had its own microclimate. And so like the Midwest had forests, right? You look at like the Minnesota had the what's it called, the Kinley Fire. It was like 400 or 500 square miles of forest land that was burnt down in the 19th century.
Right.
And so a lot of examples of that, you could go back further and you could say, okay, well, the Native Americans were doing certain slash and burn in order to like, lead buffalo certain places. There might have been a lot of elements that are conducive to it, but it's a fact that tornadoes are not natural everywhere. And all of the places around the world where tornadoes have formed are places like cities now in other parts of the world. It's really surprising that we'll find twisters that show up in South America or in Mongolia or things like that, but they're almost invariably in places that humans have changed, right? Because there's a rapid dynamic between like the heat and the cool, and there's nothing to absorb it. The same thing for Dust Bowl. The Dust Bowl is a major manufacturer of human error. We wouldn't have had a Dust Bowl if trees were able to catch the wind, right? But if you have pockets and you have valleys and mountains, and all of a sudden wind is able to tunnel. Like, has anyone ever been to Wyoming? Like, it's windy.
I'm just thinking of the random family who is all of a sudden, they pitched their house up and everything was going nice and swell, and one day the sky gets black, and then all of a sudden this thing comes swirling around. You'd think it'd be the end of the world.
Well, the first recorded tornado that I think I'm aware of is in like Roman colonial occupied Africa, in like Libya, right? And so they talk about like a column of wind that like lifted the animals and oxen and lifted them off. But this is something that only happened again after they like lay siege, destroy everything, use Greek fire, salt the earth in places like they literally salt the. It's not a metaphor. Like they go into the forest with salt blocks and salt the earth so nothing can grow, and that changes a place, right? Like so,
it's like the sport of curling, right? It's kind of like curling at like a. No,
I like curling, but I
love curling. Yeah,
I don't get the.
Well, because the way that you're describing it is like the way that curling is that you clear a path so that you can direct where this energy is being led through. So if you can intentionally clear these areas out, you're just playing curling with tornadoes. It essentially.
Dang, bro! Yeah, them Scottish Hong Kong billionaires are playing curling with the wind. That's what.
Or any type of weather manipulation.
You just uncovered the glitter conspiracy. That must be.
There are reports of tornado damage, peculiar damage in the wake of tornadoes, where things like, I don't know, pieces of paper been like embedded, like
McDonald's straws. McDonald's straws are my favorite. Like there's like a train. There's a underpass where I remember seeing this in like the late 90s, where straws, like there's a truck of straws from a McDonald's, or I think it was actually just the tornado went through the McDonald's, picked up the straws, and then they just went like darts into the sides of concrete, like pew 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 pew, and just like thousands of straws just embedded like 9 inches deep into concrete,
which implies a sort of, or at least I've read in Joseph Farrell's books, the existence of like a different explanation for how tornadoes actually work, like what the electromagnetic forces are that's underlying that phenomena is actually much stranger than we suppose.
No, absolutely. I think that's the thing. I don't think tornadoes are as natural as people think they are, or if they are, then they only seem to happen in really dynamic circumstances where things are not equaling out properly in nature, right? Like, so that's the thing, like order comes out of chaos. So the chaos of tearing things up and equalizing is violent, but then that emerges something kind of integrated.
And that's the whole message of Twister, sort of, is about they're trying to map the chaos with their Doherty sensors and it's kind
PepsiCo,
of and PepsiCo, and their instruments and Helen Hunt's biceps.
Yeah, I feel like there's something about that. Like they're mapping humanity because they're like the PepsiCo. Like it's really going inside of us, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Twister's dark, bro.
I look forward to it.
First United States tornado. Sorry,
not the movie, just like the actual phenomenon.
Yeah, sorry.
Have y'all ever been in a twister? Seen a twister?
Oh yeah. I've been in a few. Actually, my dad, I took him to Minnesota, right? And I was like, "You're gonna have to like." He said, "Let me sleep." I'm like, "I don't know if I can. You might have to go in the underground."
Apparently, they had a shit ton of twisters over Chicago yesterday.
Oh, really?
Huh, really?
And that's where the DNC convention's going to be.
They happen a lot in Florida, following and surrounding hurricanes. A lot of people don't realize that hurricanes breed lots of little like mini twisters, and those mini twisters tend to cause more damage in like areas than the hurricane itself, because the hurricane's just persistent, constant wind, which you can kind of deal with, but the twisters, they just pop out of nowhere, and those are the ones that really tear a house apart.
I've seen tiny ones. I've seen big ones. I'm just saying, if you're in Colorado or Illinois during the convention, I'm not thinking this is like that probable or anything, but like get out of the state maybe. Oh my God, because like the idea of if you didn't succeed with a bullet and you've got a like weather modifying machine, like wouldn't that be the right thing to do? You're like, well, we could really rebuild Chicago. Like that's kind of what scares me.
Happened before.
Right.
I just imagine, what if the second attempt is with McDonald's straws now?
There you go. From a tornado.
Yeah. I have thought that in my investigations of different dates and being led to these dates by numerology and other factors, oftentimes I will look up a date and it's like, oh, this was the super tornado outbreak or whatever. Like just like what they show in Twister, it's like a crazy day of tornadoes. And so like there might be something to the whole there's a different mechanism for tornadoes, just like nuclear weapons, where somebody like Bruce Cathy, who was a New Zealand.
What do you think about Trump being born on a blood moon 700 days before the founding of Israel? Ooh.
I thought he was a time traveler.
Right? Well, I mean, still got to be born at some point. Got to schedule that.
There you go. Good point.
I don't know. Anything with that? What do you think about blood moon? At least a blood moon? Nothing?
Not sure. Cricket?
Well, I know
if you believe in the moon, I guess that's cool.
Cryptocubrology does follow like the numbers. I thought.
Yeah, Jenny from Forrest Gump was born on the July 16th, 1945, the day of the first atomic bomb explosion. That's a interesting little tidbit of cinematic history I wasn't aware of.
Hey.
So she's the bomb.
The genie. She's the genie.
She's the bomb. Yeah, right.
JD Vance said that he convinced himself that he was gay. Did you guys hear that?
He said what?
I've heard a lot of things.
Vance convinced himself he was gay.
He was, or that he wasn't?
JD Vance convinced himself that he was gay when he was a kid. JD Vance wrote in Hillbilly Elegy that he once became convinced he was gay when he was a kid. The only thing I knew about gay men was that they preferred men to women, he wrote. His grandmother quickly put to the notion to the rest, asking him, JD, do you want to suck?
Full Metal Jacket. Do you suck dick?
I don't know.
Thanks, Ma. You know what? If you're going to put it that way.
I'll never forget the time I convinced myself that I was gay. I was 8 or 9, maybe younger. I stumbled upon a broadcast by some fire and brimstone preacher. The man spoke about the evils of homosexuals and how they infiltrate our society, and how they were all destined for hell absent some serious repenting. At that time, the only thing I knew about gay men was that they preferred men to women. This described me perfectly. I disliked girls, and my best friend in the world was my buddy Bill. Oh no, I'm going to hell. She replied bluntly, don't be an idiot. How do you know you're gay? Do you like to suck them? And that was basically the end of that. I don't know. To me,
she said that to her 8-year-old grandson.
Well, sometimes you gotta just be frank.
Thanks, Grandma.
Kids. I think people should listen to children, but they should also talk to children. I don't know. Still, something about it is interesting to me.
Interesting.
Nothing? Okay.
I have something about JD Vance. Actually, if you look in the chat, private chat, I had a link to Fred LaRue.
Oh, okay.
Did you see that? This is
okay.
maybe nobody cares, but
No,
I was
I'm
looking
into
at JD Vance birthday. Okay, so from his birth to the announcement of VP, the midpoint of that was the death day of this guy, Fred LaRue, who was the Watergate. He was one of the Watergate guys. But what I love about this is if you go to the biography section, it says in 1957, LaRue accidentally shot and killed his father while hunting with his friends in Canada. With his newfound wealth, LaRue invested in many failed business ventures, including casinos in Havana, Cuba, prior to the coming. So I just love that origin story there, and the fact that he's one of the guys, one of the plumbers, I guess. And I found him through the midpoint.
That's pretty hilarious. I think it's funny that like it's Pence and
LaRue too. LaRue kind of conjures LaRouche.
Right.
As in Lyndon LaRouche.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it.
I see that. I feel that. I was just thinking about Pence and Vance because Pence and Vance have the same, NCE letters there.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like that was almost the most important thing to him. He's like, yeah, I just want it to have that at the end of
Anyway, it's got a beatbox. It's got to be able to beatbox.
You know what I mean? That could be the thing.
You can't have two more letters than Trump. That would be
is it two letters or is it a letter that we've all forgotten about? Because it's like Pence, Vance, E-A-E-A-E. Isn't it really the what is this thing called again, man?
Well, it's interesting. He's a Catholic convert, right?
Yes.
Since 2019. Since 2019.
The day after Epstein killed himself, he converted.
So, like,
to
Biden is the second Catholic president, right? Before Kennedy.
Well, that doesn't count. Biden doesn't count, does he?
Well, I'm just saying Trump picking a Catholic seems pretty direct, right?
That's like saying Obama's the first black president. Like, it's obvious, like, he's like,
we all know it was Bill Clinton, yeah.
Bill Clinton was black and Obama did not play basketball.
Abraham Lincoln, I'm sorry, was black, actually.
Has there been a Catholic president or vice president since JFK?
Biden.
But
Biden. Oh, well, yeah. Well, I guess you were saying that doesn't really count.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that this is a little bit more. Is Biden? Do you really count him as a Catholic? What do you do?
100%.
I don't know, man.
Sure. Why not?
What kind of Catholic is he?
He's an Irish Catholic.
He's a California Catholic. He's like this fake Catholic. He's the not real Catholic. He's the kind of Catholic that doesn't have to be Catholic.
He's a reanimated corpse.
He's like in a Protestant environment, so being a Catholic is the minority.
Wait, so JD Vance is not an Irish Catholic?
No, JD Vance is married. He was a roommate to Vivek Ramaswamy. His son's named Vivek. He's Vedic inclined through his wife, which is a great thing, by the way. And I think that a lot of people should pay attention to why that makes sense that he would be into the Jesuits, because he said he was basically an atheist, got through like his wife interested in studying the Veda, and then in 2019 became a Jesuit inspired Catholic, which if you know about Jesuit inspired Catholic, that kind of like is code whistleblowing for Chardinian Omega Point metaphysics as an alternative to anthropic God. So for a lot of people might look at a non-anthropic God as atheism, because a lot of people think God just means a guy, but if you don't think God's just some guy, then what do you think God is? For people that's like, well, if you don't think God's a guy, then you're an atheist, right? So there's a reason why it makes sense for him to have gotten interested in Chardinian metaphysics through the Catholics. And also, that's the tie-in with the Mormons and with Trump, because Trump is, he went to the Jesuit university as a kid. It feels like that's where all the order in his life came from, right? Was from his military high school.
McLuhan was a Catholic convert.
Big time.
And that's an odd one, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it makes a lot of sense, though. I mean, what I've noticed is that around Trump, there's been a lot of Jesuit presence, and there's always been that conspiracy. JFK was going to build a tunnel, or at least connect the tunnel to the Vatican, right? That was a big conspiracy that was popular in the 60s, that Trump was this JFK was this danger for being Catholic, and he would connect the tunnel to the Vatican. I think a lot of people look at Catholics as a lot of Freemasonic Baptist Protestant Americans look at Catholics the same way as they do them, right? The idea that Freemasons are the bad guys. A lot of people look at Catholics the same way, right? Like look at the Vatican as the same way. And maybe 50%, like maybe as many people don't realize it because there's so many people in the country or something, but right, like the connection to the Vatican Bank is pretty clear. People associate the Vatican with assassinations, with September 11th, I mean that's pretty common.
But as a political force, how much power does the Vatican still have?
A lot, because the archdiocese control a lot of the governors and a lot of the Senate. Like I said, the governors are pretty much controlled by the archdiocese. Like
who has more power politically, television or the Vatican?
I would say they're probably more connected than you realize. I mean, and I wouldn't say you realize because, Bill, looking back at the history of television and cinema and how the Boys Town and what was his name? The priest who worked with Bill Cosby. Oh, my God. What's his name?
I would ask the Vatican or Scientology.
Boys Town film with
Because
Edward Flanagan or Father Edward Flanagan? What about Father Edward Flanagan? Right?
And
Father
they're non-existent.
Bill, they don't need to show themselves. That's the kind of thing, right? Like you don't need to. You kind of just have this ambiguous presence.
That guy died the day Israel was born.
Wow.
Or the day after. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love it actually if you'd watch Boys Town, which is the film, because if you know about
do you know how the Russians left film?
If you know about the conspiracy of silence, Boys Town, there was a bunch of kids that were molested, and you should look into the Boys Town thing with Lawrence King Jr., the Republican Party in Nebraska. The Franklin allegations. Yeah. So that was all about Boys Town. This is the film that got the funding for Boys Town, which includes Mickey Rooney, Spencer Tracy. There's even like scenes with Bill Cosby and Jack Benny that are all with Father Flanagan and are talking about like all of the plans. They have all kinds of other films like about nuclear energy. The Vatican talking about nuclear energy. By the way, the Vatican has a nuclear commission, and that the first group to recognize the Vatican as a country or as a sovereignty legitimately in the United States was the Atomic Energy Commission, right? That recognized the Vatican. So there's a tie there too. But forget the point. Basically, the Catholics though, they do run a lot of stuff. People don't realize they do, but like the Vatican Bank, the World Bank, the Vatican run a lot of things, and especially the Archdiocese of San Francisco controlling the governor of California, and the Archdiocese of New York controlling the governor of New York, and I think it's pretty much liberation theology. So liberation theology is outside of Catholicism, kind of in a sense. Like it's kind of like created by Catholicism. And it's this idea that we'll all be, about liberation theology, we'll all be altar boys. There won't be any ableism of the family nucleus anymore. The church will build monastic Oxfordian schools that will all live in these campuses. Liberation theology is a Jesuit thing.
Is Angels in the Outfield a Catholic movie?
Yeah. I would say so.
I would definitely say so.
I tried really hard to make it a Mormon movie in my mind, and it can't be for a couple of reasons. But I mean, like, for one thing, you got to be able to physically shake
all the
hands.
black people in it.
No. It's just being able to physically shake hands, and feathered wings is not like a big LDS thing. You should be able to physically shake his hand to test him to see if he's really an angel or if he's just a master of illusions. That's a major thing with the LDS.
Very Masonic. You got to do this special little.
You got to, bro. But like at the same time, the Catholic aspect of Angels in the Outfield is, pretty clear, right? Like you got this idea of, but there is still this idea. Some humans, some Catholics look at humans as becoming angels through becoming saints, and that's kind of the Mormon thing of that movie. It's not a very humans don't become angels according to like Catholicism, right? But Mormonism they do. So part is Angels in the Outfield.
Here's the stink that I just found, which with Angels in the Outfield, looking at it being Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It's not his film debut, but it's one of his first roles. But the character he plays is named Roger Bomman, which, as far as I can tell, is Bowman, which is just like little J.D. Vance, who was born George Bowman or whatever.
Weird.
James
born Bowman?
James Donald Bowman. So his middle name is Donald. So he's a Donald Bowman.
Why did he change his name to Vance? What's up with that?
Got no clue. I'm not sure.
What?
I
just
found
this out.
Vance thing.
Wait a minute. Yeah, hold on.
So he changed his name from Bowman to Hamill, and then from Hamill to when did he get to Vance?
The thrice great J.D. Vance.
Probably at Yale, the whole Yale thing.
Well, you know how it is with synchromysticism. You got to have at least 3 symbols.
Sure.
3 meanings.
3 vectors.
Yeah.
Well, it's there.
Bowman was born in Ohio to Beverly Carroll.
Here's
his mother's maiden name.
Here was a weird thing, which was that when the shooting happened and everybody was saying it was in Butler. At first I was like, oh, it was Butler, Ohio. So I looked up Butler, Ohio, but then I realized that's wrong. It was Butler, Pennsylvania. So then I look up Pennsylvania. Then the next day he announces J.D. Vance, and where is J.D. Vance from? Butler, Ohio.
All right, well, here's
Middletown.
Here's the lifetime narrative. So his parents divorced when he was a toddler. Shortly after, Bowman was adopted by his mother's 3rd husband, Bob Hamill. Changed his name to James David Hamill. So he was James Donald Bowman, became James David Hamill, and then became James David Vance, or is he James Donald Vance now? How we go? Now he's James David Vance. So he kept his new middle name.
Which one was the gay one?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, bro. There's so many freaking personalities at once.
Oh man. Yeah, the fact that he had 3 different names. That well, I was sitting there thinking a while ago. In fact, I heard through the whispers that if Trump were to select somebody, there is a wolf in sheep's clothing that he would pick. So,
well,
chalk it up to the Jesuit Catholic, I guess.
You got to keep your enemies close and your enemies closer, right? I think that's kind of the point. Like I don't know how much I agree with that strategy, but it seems like Trump does that all the time, and keeping the person that's kind of.
I would still argue that he's on the chopping block and he could get fired at any moment. It is,
but
Trump.
He's a Marine, right?
Yeah, he's the very first. He'd be the very first Marine.
Would he really?
He'd be the very first Marine, correct?
The very first gay Marine too.
Yeah.
Well, that's why he got picked.
But he's not gay.
Oh
that's
yeah,
almost. Hey, well, dude, there's nothing gayer.
You see the lapel pin? There's the lapel pin right there. My
Bill, you're muted if you're trying to talk.
I mean, I'll grant you. You can think.
I got to be very careful what I say. There's nothing gayer than the military, not necessarily the Marines. But you know what I mean.
I had a guy I bartended with, and he had a stutter, and he, had to deal with a stutter all his fucking life. And he's kind of a geeky guy, and but then he hit puberty, and he got taller, and he got stronger, and he wanted to go to the Marines, but they wouldn't let him because of his stutter, or people thought maybe he was making that as an excuse. Anyways, he went to the Marines, and I gotta tell you, man, like he completely was reborn. You know what I mean?
Hyper based,
and in a good way. I thought in a good way. So I know the stereotype, and I know the all the psychoanalytic things going on, but for a lot of people, I think it's pretty fucking basic. It's really hard.
Better a Marine than an Antifa or a Democrat. I mean, what?
Yeah, you can make it work. And so if this guy's a Marine, I mean, they still have standards. That's the thing.
Exactly.
Our world doesn't have standards anymore. So if you go to the Marines, those are some old school, rigid, non-changing standards. And if you do that, you actually feel like you've earned a degree. You know what I mean? Right. There's all these occult degrees being passed around online right now. But
I agree with that. It's a Jesuit, the Marines are a very Jesuit thing, right?
Because, is it?
Yeah, like
Jesuit.
The Jesuits did all the cool stuff. I mean, everyone gets upset about it, but they invented education. They said, give me your boys, I'll give you back men. They said, go set the world on fire. The whole thing is very do like make a dent in the universe, right? And so
I went to Loyola. They did it. They worked.
Yeah, it is, and they're into metaphysics, and they think God's less anthropic, which is great. Like there's a lot of, and Catholicos means universal, right?
Yeah,
like it's not a bad idea to be universal, to try to be like, oh, that's how you worship God. Oh, interesting, that's how you are worshiping God.
You got to go universal before you go meta.
Yeah.
If you go meta before you go universal, you might never get to universal.
100%. Yeah, I think that's 100% true. I think that's the reason why it's kind of a useful thing to have, like Jesuit metaphysics, and people are like, oh, well, the best educated people went to Jesuit schools, or that Jesuit education is what secular education is modeled on, or whatever it is. But there's a lot of reasons why it's at our benefit to be thinking. I mean, especially like now we're talking about, okay, if you can't accept God, can you at least accept simulation theory, right?
Can you just accept math?
Well, simulation theory is, for people that can't handle God, like emotionally, but need to know that 2 + 2 doesn't equal 5. So you're starting to say, okay, well, look, we can talk about God nuanced. We can add caveats. We can say God is, because like there's a lot of people that have different opinions on God. Like God's a man, God's a woman, God's a divorcee dad who, has a son who's a carpenter, like doesn't like
shout in the street.
Yeah, there's a lot like God is screaming in the streets. That's for sure. What if God was one of us thing? I still think is irrelevant. Not irrelevant completely, but it's a relevant thing. The idea that what if God was one of us? I think people
trying to make his way home.
Yeah,
well, I got to talk about Angels in the Outfield again, because I was just looking at the page and how it starts, and it says it stars. Okay, and I just wanted these 3 names. It stars Danny Glover, Tony Danza, and Christopher Lloyd. Now, if that's not just like The Shining in 3 different names, like, or actors really, Danny Glover, and then Glover has to do with Dr. Strangelove and the gloved hand, which is autonomously saluting Hitler and so forth.
Also,
and
I always noticed as a kid
bartender.
When I was like 5 or 6 and I saw this movie's cassette tape, I remember reading it like Al Ka, right? Which I was like, what does that mean? But like now it's like, well, Al would be like Arabic for like the, and then the Ka, right? Like Ka, this soul, right? Like, so there's
there's the 3 of them. Oh my god! And then this is Gordon Levitt, who later on he
who's the
plays
boss again?
In the Walk, he plays Felipe, whatever his name is, who Zemeckis' reenactment of the Twin Towers high wire stunt. Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays that, and in which he's wearing the same jacket. Isn't this is from the Jake Kotza videos, I think. The same jacket that Marty McFly is wearing in Back to the Future. So,
well, Angels in the Outfield, you have AA, and then you've got Uncle Al up there in the center with his wings. And if Ka is the Egyptian soul, that works into the whole thing.
Tony Danza. So Tony is, Danny's alternate ego.
That is the most.
And Danza is Oz.
That's the most Mormon aspect of the movie to me, is that Tony Danza part. Tony Danza is the Mormon like tie-in, because he dies from smoking, and he's told the orphan, who's not really an orphan because he's just abandoned as a child. His father's throughout the movie signing paperwork constantly, like, no, I can't, I won't take care of this boy. He's told Tony Danza is going to die because he's been smoking, but soon he'll be one of us, right? And that, that's not to say that he's a saint or that he's performed like thrice minor miracles in a Catholic way. So there's definitely something kind of interesting about that. But then if that's the case, then what that suggests is that these aren't really angels per se. These are jinn, right? Because if this is a Mormon movie and they haven't shaken hands, then what these are demons, fallen angels, which still is very freaking Disney. Like, there's no way that doesn't make sense. I'm just saying that you have to open up the plausibility of that. And what happens throughout the movie, they make it so that they don't perform miracles. They only perform miracles to startle and possess. And then by the actual game, they say like that's the rules, that they don't interfere with the actual game, and everyone has to play on their own.
Well, listen, my big question, since Tony Danza's in it, who is the boss? Who's the boss?
Well, Christopher Lloyd is the boss. Angel.
Yeah, there it goes.
Uncle Al.
I'm sorry, I'm blanking really hard right now. Is it Amelia? Oh God, what's her name? Alyssa Milano. Because if you think about it, she's the last one left from Charmed. So realistically, she's the boss. Because
going down.
Didn't
Shannon
she start
Doherty's
Me
dead,
Too?
so Alyssa Milano is alive, and she
Didn't
started the
she
Me
start
Too
Me
movement.
Too?
Yeah, she started the Me Too movement. She's
And
the
Me
boss.
Too is just me squared or me or meme.
Yeah.
Meme.
Yeah.
I wish I could hate Alyssa Milano. I wish I had it in me, but like I can't.
Is it the Interview with the Vampire? Or no, what is it? Kiss of the Vampire?
Are you sure there's not some kind of statement that she made that just really just, you know?
I tried really hard every time, but like you have to. I can't help but remind myself. I try to forget that actors are not like the people that they're like. That they're the writing and the scene, the movie. I try really hard to remember. To like, I don't know. For me, it's hard. Like, no, I can't help but remember that that's different than the person.
She's an
so
actor.
for me, it's like, of course she's gonna say stupid stuff if you don't have a good writer, right? Like you can't expect that. Like she doesn't. She's too busy learning how to cry on command and to stand in the light to know what to say. Like that's not fair. Like you shouldn't expect her to be a freaking philosopher.
Well, keep her mouth shut. I don't want to hear any stupid things. Listen, I don't want to.
Well, that's just to be expected. If you can't write something good for her to say, if you don't give her good knock jokes, then she's gonna invent the Me Too movement. It's our fault.
It always goes back to the round table and the jester. You know, the last person that the king and the knights and everybody at the round table want to hear is advice for the upcoming battle from the jester.
I don't know if you
say,
really.
Hey, jester, just keep on jesting. Thanks so much.
Are you really? Is this real? Are you really making like a Bruce Valanche thing right now? I couldn't tell if that was like as specific as I thought it was. Is that what that meant? I don't know. No. Okay. Bruce Valanche writes everything. Without Bruce Valanche, Hollywood is nothing.
Yeah,
it's a fact.
He actually wrote 713, I believe.
My God.
I have a feeling he has his own dressing, like his own personal spin on it.
Salad dressing?
What would he call it?
One time I ran into Bruce Valanche in a Chinese all-you-can-eat buffet in Ventura, and then he like saw me eating the sushi.
Valanche dressing.
I would eat only the fish and throw away the rice, and I like didn't eat for like a couple days, and I was like 19, and he just like came up to my table, and was like, "I really admire your method." It was like,
oh my God.
Yeah, can you imagine that coming up to you and saying that?
Please visualize.
Hey, when are you gonna have him on the show to interview him?
Oh my God,
Yeah,
God
there
only
you
knows. Text
Quick-
one.
Quick word about Tony Danza.
Yeah.
He was, I didn't know this. He was actually a retired boxer. He was a boxer before he was an actor. I didn't know that. Yeah. So that doubles down on the Shining thing.
And he was a hell of an actor in Taxi. I think Taxi is one of my favorite. I like Taxi more than Who's the Boss.
Right.
I feel like
And Christopher Lloyd was in Taxi.
And Andy Kaufman. Andy Kaufman. And then also I noticed that Joyce Gordon-Levitt grew up, and then he made this movie Don John, which has Tony Danza and Scarlett Johansson.
That's right. It does have Tony Danza as his father. Interesting.
Yeah.
That is pretty good, which is a great Catholic movie, which ties it back because it's pretty convincingly Catholic. There's no question.
Makes sense.
Well, it ties back to the apotheosis of Trump. And what you were saying is that separating the actor from the human being doing the acting, is that Trump is no longer an actor on TV or a personality. He's now human.
Right.
He's officially a human being. You have to grant him that grace now. And you see him as a victim of a shooting now. I mean, you can't erase that from him.
One side does. The other side sees him as one side sees him as that. The other side sees him as the same thing as he was, a con man and huckster that staged a thing. So I just want to see how it's going to play out.
Well, I'll say this:
I feel like it doesn't really matter.
George Bush to throw a strike on national TV for even liberals to say that was kind of cool.
I feel like it doesn't really matter what's real, and people forget that. And that it's like, I'm not here to argue with you, like in debate, whether they use corn syrup or chocolate syrup. You know, like that's not the important thing to me. What's important, you know, obviously, like what's real, that's irrelevant tomorrow. What happened today doesn't exist tomorrow. All that matters is what people think. And this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing, you know, the creation of the God Emperor, and I think people should be more concerned. Basically,
if the power of television still existed at its height, then yes, he could have fulfilled that role. But that role doesn't exist in the multiverse of cyberspace. It just doesn't. It's the information is too tribally dissected for anyone to have this iconic power. He's going to have a human power. We're going to forget that a president was just a human being, not an icon on TV. That you listen to the words, not the image. And this is what this event is trying to force us into.
Right. Yeah, and it's Caesar and Planet of the Apes. Yeah.
I think because of his faith, he is a vessel for change. I don't want to call the man simple, but he eats McDonald's, drinks Diet Coke, and has a pretty regimented life. So
maybe that's what you have to do.
I drink regular Coke, but you know.
That's the most Taoist path,
candidate.
It's the most Taoist path. Yeah, it's true.
I want a president who only drinks Crystal Pepsi.
And if you think about the
Crystal
Coke,
Pepsi,
New
not
Coke
Crystal
thing,
meth. That's how we have to change the White
House. If you go to the whole
first.
Coke, New Coke thing, if you go from Diet Coke to New Diet Coke, you get New DC. You get a new Washington DC through this.
So, all right, I want you all to hack. I want you all to do me a big favor here. Like, there's a thing called Hack the Planet. You know what I'm saying? I want you to hack the planet. Is this it? This is the movie Hackers. This is a picture where, come on, man. How hard is it to just? There it is. There it is. Hack the planet. He's supposed to be screaming right now. Hack the planet. Really? Nothing? This is terrible.
Hack the planet.
Hack the planet. All right. If you go to the, there it is. I was trying so hard. Hack the planet. You know what I'm saying? All right. If you go type 190 to 804-375-5011, just go text 804-375-5011, the number 190. Okay? That's all you gotta do. This is how to defeat oppression. This is how to stop Skynet. This is how to cure yourself from diseases that don't exist yet. Just go ahead and type 190 to 804-375-5011. Do this every day until July 28th. This is how you elect Sam Newsman, the puppet master who holds all the strings. This is what you got to do. So it's pretty simple. There's like a radio show, like award show thing, basically.
Well, it's from the Richmond Times-Dispatch, the newspaper of record here in Virginia.
You can mess with the timeline. You can dent the universe. You can change the newspapers. You can be a part of history. All you got to do is text 190 to this number right here, 804-375-5011.
You know, what if I told you that my one of the people who I'm up against is possibly going to run for lieutenant governor? And also corporate media has shelled out over $1,000 in order to beat me. Now, I have a small independent radio show every Saturday morning. But corporate radio, the Monday through Friday, the morning shows, the afternoon shows, the big money media, spending thousands of dollars.
What scares me is that, you know, if you don't tilt your head just the right way, you could just be like a cloud of felt in just a second. It all goes so fast, the life of the puppet.
I'll try and do that.
I want you to be all right. I just want you to be safe. But everybody, please text him and tell he's in danger. I really want you to help.
Here's a little something I did. I did talk to the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Now, when you text that number 190, what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to get a text back message that says, "Thanks for voting for Sam Newsman." However, that system went kind of kerplooey today. They're going to get.
There's a conspiracy. They're trying to suppress Sam.
Listen, I think there's the best conspiracy. Of course, they don't want a real media puppet to win. Of course, here I am setting the standard, raising the bar. All these humans around here, humans all the time being called puppets. And you think I'm
disgusting, racist, racist.
Well, you know what? You can fix it by texting 190 to the number on your screen.
God
every
bless
day
you,
until the 28th.
Hack the planet. What are you up to, Paranoid? What have you been up to?
Hey, you're never gonna believe this, but NASA Comic is
You're
launched.
lying. You're lying.
It's finally launched.
No.
Not only is it launched,
wait.
but
I don't
we're
even
already
believe you.
over
I'm gonna
half.
look it up.
We're already halfway there.
Holy guacamole. You guys don't understand this. Maybe you do. Maybe you've been here for a while. Do you guys remember long ago when I said click on the remind me button and maybe when you get to 100 he'll actually do the comment? Oh, I was so young. I was like, I had like childlike wonder in my eye. But now
so many trauma-based programming events ago, right?
This is a big deal actually to me and for a lot of people, and this is kind of like without this there can't be the golden bough, and so we need to start with never a straight answer. So there's a 40-page comic book that you've been hearing about, and like all of the dreams have been. You know what? Hold on. Let's just do this right. Okay.
Ready for a cosmic conspiracy about Stanley Kubrick, moon landings, and the CIA? Go visit nasacomic.com.
NASAcomic.com, CIA's biggest con. Stanley Kubrick put us on, that's why we're singing this song. About NASAcomic.com, go visit NASAcomic.com. Go visit NASAcomic.com.
You should go to visit nasacomics.com. nasacomic.com is one of the coolest websites ever. The kids these days in the schools, they're sending each other nasacomic.com.
Stanley Kubrick put us on, that's why we're singing this song. About nasacomic.com, go visit
Like Sam is like actually going to nasacomic.com right now. Look at him. He can't even stop bobbing his head while he's typing. Poor guy.
Never a Straight Answer is a 40-page comic about Stanley Kubrick directing the Apollo space missions.
Send it.
What'd you say?
I want to play that song on the radio.
I know, right? Don't you just want to like doesn't it make you kind of just want to like go to nasacomic.com? Because if it doesn't, then like hypnosis doesn't work. But I feel like you want to go to nasacomic.com. Okay. And then also
I did.
Let me just Crypto Alchemist Substack real hard for a second. There's a guy who likes to type in numbers and find out how they tie to each other. This is the
CryptoCubrology.com.
Oh, this guy.
Did I say something else? Did I say? I hope I said CryptoCubrology.
Please get it
I hope
right.
I didn't screw it up. I don't want to be embarrassed.
CryptoCubrology.com.
Look at this. You guys don't
my
get
latest effort.
Let me just like hypnotize you with his sigil.
Available now.
His sunglasses are wearing sunglasses in a film strip. You gotta understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the newest one, Long
bear.
Legs.
It's a bear too. Yeah, Long Legs. I haven't seen it yet. Have you guys?
No.
I saw it. It's not good.
What does
All
good
right.
even mean?
Say no more.
Good isn't a thing anymore. Like, what is the point of the Masonic symbolism is all I'm worried about. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Even that's not good.
What's the angle?
it wasn't effective. It wasn't effective propaganda. Can you imagine?
Well,
pretty soon, Roger
the
Ebert,
storm
it
around
wasn't
it,
effective propaganda. I could see that.
The sync storm around it is crazy, and yeah, I did some writing about it, and you can subscribe to my Substack. There will be more coming. I guess I'm plugging my stuff now. So
this is really interesting to me. I wish we'd talk about this, but we don't have time. Elon Musk has a responsibility over the cursed palace of Gene Wilder. God bless him for having that responsibility.
Yeah.
He will take that responsibility beyond all material responsibilities, which is really interesting because you're thinking to yourself, wow, I should really like be a bodhisattva and I should like live in Digambara, you know, like be a naked Vedic. But at the same time, I promised that I would like, you know, like pay for the funeral expenses, you know, of Philip K. Dick. It doesn't matter. All right. Bill,
Okay.
do you want to tell us where they can like sign up to go to like middle school math class? What do we tell them about you?
Oh, that's a good subject because I've been noticing that, people are so in tune to magic and synchromysticism and all these things, but math is still a 4-letter word amongst the woo-woo community.
Yeah, I was really upset about that yesterday, or was it the day before? I forget. I did a show recently. I was like, "Come on, you don't hate math." They're like, "No, I hate math." I'm like, yeah, but like you don't like. They're like, I don't understand math. Like, yeah, but like, let's say you had a bunch of pizzas that weren't sliced, and you had to like make pieces for your friends. You could do it. And they're like, yeah, I could.
It's brain dysmorphia. You know what I mean? It's judging the capabilities of your hard drive and whatever. It's a big subject that's been popping up lately. I want to kind of do a show on it at some point because I got some shit to say about it. But the last thing I just wanted to say is, Elon Musk endorsed Trump after the assassination, correct? And he makes the Neuralinks, right? And if there is any time travel, I guarantee you having a Neuralink is going to be like, you have to have a Neuralink in your head.
Practical.
For time travel.
Yeah. Like a
So I think what we saw with Trump, if there's another angle to it that we can't see through normal physics, is that, Trump is a time traveler, and that wound on his ear is where the Neuralink went into.
Oh.
And so we're going to
hot.
see
I like it.
this.
That was good.
This Trump who's from the future, who saw everything win. He's got the Neuralink with the program in his head. And then, so we'll see if that's just a comic book or if that plays out. But
that's hot.
That's all I got.
That is a great take. That's a great ending take.
I downplayed Bill. Bill's one of my sexiest math teacher friends, and I know a few. He has a show on the SyncBook Press, and you can check him out also on Always Record. But I think also 42 minutes is worth your time. So you should check
just
out.
throw up ayahuasca.com real quick.
Oh, you have ayahuasca.com. Hold on. Let me just remember how to spell for a second. Ayahuasca. Did I do it right? Ayahuasca.com?
It's in my screen name. IAHUASCA.
What am I doing wrong here? IAHUASCA.
There you go.
Ayahuasca.com. Nothing. It's not
Here, check the chat.
Okay. Oh, it's Blogspot. Yeah, you got to do a redirect, my brother. Do a redirect right there. Yeah, go to the ayahuasca.blogspot.com. Blogspots are like, based. I don't think people understand. Like, I have one. I don't post on it as much, but it's low key.
Ooh, click on that one link. Click on that. Go up a little bit, real quick, to that OTOET. Did you catch this?
Yeah, I'm doing it. I have not seen this. I'll put on the sound for you because I love you. Hold on. And even though this is like a Joe Rogan thing, and Joe Rogan's going to be like, we don't own that, blah, 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 blah. Let's just find out at the beginning. Oh, can we just like really quickly talk about, I'm sorry, I'm just going to do it. Like News Radio is a show where Joe freaking Rogan is, like they sacrificed Phil Hartman, and he's like, he works for a bunch of narcissists that run the radio shows that nobody listens to, and he talks about conspiracies all the time. Okay, I'm done. All right, let's go back. Did I break it? I broke it.
You broke it.
Here you go.
Well, whatever. Head on over there.
Yeah, if you'll just type into my book, TCO.
That's what I'm looking. Well, where's the book?
It's.
Or you could also Google OTOET.
No.
OTOET will take you to that.
Really?
Yeah.
OTOET will take you to that? Really? Huh. Interesting. That's weird. No, it's okay. But granted, I like to use hashtags that way too. Okay. I feel like did I do it right? Did I leave anything out? Am I supposed to?
It's all good.
Okay. I love you guys. We'll
190 hack the planet hashtag Sam the vote.
Yeah, 190. Freaking here. Hold on. There you go.
190 to 804-375-5011.
Love each other.